Welcome to another episode, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, episode 230. Excuse me, 237. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week, Gail from Community Digital News. She's back after being away last week. No, she was here last week. I'm sorry. Jacob from Jab Hook, Daniel from the Inscriber. What's going on, lady and gents?
I am back from Las Vegas, and I know we're going to have a talk.
Absolutely. A lot went down, and some late breaking news happening over the past few hours. Let's get things going, recapping what went down this past weekend, last week on Friday and Saturday to be specific. But before we do that, get the usual rundown before we kick things going. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Boxing Report, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, live YouTube show, podcast, and blog discussing all things boxing. The motto: when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns the sweet science, we will talk about it. Want to find out all the information regarding Pound for Pound Boxing Report blog page? That's the place to go to. p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. That's the link. You check the right of the blog page, you'll find links to where to find everything regarding Pound for Pound Boxing Report, all over social media, all our social media links, all our links to where you can listen to the show in podcast form. We're on basically every available podcast form, minus Spotify. So you check the right of blog page, you can find where to catch the podcast. And as I said before, as I've said in prior episodes, there are very few things that are free, including the production of this podcast. So if you also check the right of the blog page, you will find links to the Cash Me and to the PayPal account. So shoot us a couple dollars, $1, $2, $5, $10, whatever you can spare. We would really appreciate it. Again, let's kick things going off by recapping what went down last week, Friday and Saturday to be specific. I want to start with the big bout, of course, in Vegas. Manny Pacquiao defending his BA, I believe it is, welterweight title against Adrien Broner. There's a reason I named this episode Broner doing what he does, and that's disappointing because he did that once again. Pacquiao winning by unanimous decision. Pacquiao, he controlled the first 3 rounds. When I saw Broner pick it up in round 4 and 5, Gail, I'm thinking, okay, for once, Broner is actually going to do something here. But then Broner, again, he didn't stay consistent. His activity started to slow down in round 6 and 7. And once he got hurt badly in round 8 with the left hands from Manny Pacquiao, the fight was basically over at that point. Broner quit fighting. He moved around a lot, but he didn't do nothing in terms of sustained, serious, consistent action. And his commentary after the fight, that's a whole nother discussion. So I go to you, Gail, your thoughts on the fight. You were in the building covering the fight for Community's Digital News. Your reaction to what you saw from Pacquiao, from what you saw from Broner, and the fact that Floyd Mayweather was in the building and Pacquiao said, if Floyd Mayweather wants to come back, let's do it again.
Pacquiao was, he didn't turn back the clock to his absolute peak, but he certainly doesn't look like a getting old overnight 40-year-old fighter at all. So do credit to him. He came in well-trained, in shape. He always does better when his frame of mind is good, when he's happy camper, everything's smooth, outside the ring, as it seemed to be before this fight. And as I said in one of my lead-up columns, every story about a hero needs a villain. And Pacquiao had the perfect villain in Broner. The one thing about Pacquiao, he could put butts in seats every time. The arena was sold out. His fans are extremely loyal, extremely passionate. They travel. They spend money on hotels, on their travel. They buy up every bit of merchandise that's not nailed to the ground. And they're vocal. And they had plenty to do. It was a partisan Pacquiao crowd by far. There were a few Broner people there, but most of them were Broner haters. And Broner came in with that chip on his shoulder like he does. But unfortunately, he doesn't do anything, that causes us to see past it. This is a story of his career. After some early successes, he's yeah, he's just been coasting. His work ethic is questionable, and he squandered a lot of natural talent. And he's the guy that looks 40 in the ring and washed up, not Pacquiao. Even a slowed down Pacquiao was so much faster, worked so much harder. There wasn't a single round, not a single round where Broner landed more than 8 punches. And in the vast majority, he landed 3 or 4 at best. That is not a performance showing any effort or anything that anyone can be proud of. And the fact that he was that defensive after the fight, he knows the score. I will tell you, he also continued that exact same line as you all saw on the Showtime broadcast, right straight through to the post-fight news conference. You know, if he's playing a role, he should have been nominated for an Oscar today because, boy, he did not break character one bit through this whole thing. And it's really a shame to see somebody who really did have all the natural skills in the world squander them. That's that to me, that's the story of Adrien Broner. He had it and he let it slip away, and it's his own damn fault. Who knows how much of his distractions outside the ring affected him on Saturday, but it was frankly a very poor performance on his part.
Excuse me, I'm eating dinner. The only thing I can think of is that the corner of Broner, Cunningham, gave the illusion that Broner was winning the fight as well, and he just basically rolled with that. That
well, I don't know what kind of la land they exist in. I guess if it's a happy place for them, that must be nice. But there was the person in the arena that thought so. I happened to be seated for the entire card next to Joe Cortez, which was a real pleasure. Joe had the fight scored, 118, 111. He couldn't, for the life of him, figured out how 2 judges gave as many rounds as they did to Broner. Could not figure it out. The 117 card, that was fair. The 116 cards, ridiculous.
Yeah, I was mentioning that Cunningham believed that Broner won the fight. And you heard what Broner said. I'll go to you, Daniel. The problem is nobody else does. Anybody in their right mind. To Gail's earlier point, Pacquiao, he's not in his prime, but it was more than enough for what for Broner on that night. And Broner again, every time he's in a big fight, going back to Maidana, he fails us. He teases us. You think he's going to do something, but then he falls flat on his face. From a technical standpoint, from a motivational standpoint, he never seems to put it all together. So your thoughts on what you saw, Daniel?
I may have a little bit of opposite main thoughts because people think, okay, Broner is not living up to expectations. No. He's living down to the expectations. Living down to expectations because, unfortunately, this is a fighter who is not a natural counterpuncher, even though his natural attributes and the skill set should warrant him becoming a natural counterpuncher. And it's a fighter that, when he's faced with actual adversity, chooses not to engage. And that's what happened with Broner. He had a couple of rounds where he actually looked fairly decent, but the minute that Manny started landing consistently, he froze, wasn't able to reset counters. And once one left hand, I think it was in the 10th or 11th round, rocked him. Oh, he almost went down from that punch. He just gave up. Flat out gave up. Now, I don't know what Cunningham was thinking, was saying those things in the corner, saying you're winning the fight. I don't know if it's the fact that maybe Broner is, attitude-wise, past the point of no return, where he won't listen to any type of criticism, and if you try to say even 1 ounce, he'll fire you. But at a certain point, you have to be honest with your fighter. You can't baby him. And unfortunately, Cunningham babied Broner in that fight. because not even Mr. Magoo will even tell you that Broner won that fight. When Pacquiao lands over 40 body punches and you land less than 10 in a 12-round fight, not saying a 12-round fight, that should pretty much tell everybody what happened. He lived down to expectations. He's a fighter that froze and a fighter that once he feels he can't win, just gives up. And it goes even into the post-fight interview. The post-fight interviews, when it comes to Broner, you always expect shenanigans. And this entire fight week, he made up the expectations and he let it be known in the way. I will only deal with people that are willing to just give me praise. I don't want to hear any type of criticism. Kind of sounds like somebody that's living in the house in Washington right now.
Well, I can tell you, it sure makes it rough when you try to go to quote guys in a post-fight article, because the news organization I work for doesn't allow a lot of that kind of language.
As Daniel said, just like a certain dude in the Hawaii house who likes to quote folks and quote bad folks. But I'm not saying Community's digital news is bad, but again, likes to quote folks and likes to talk ridiculousness. I go to you, Jacob. Your reaction to what you saw. Your sentiments basically echo what you heard from myself and Gail and Daniel?
Adrien has a perfect nickname, The Problem, because he is a problem. He's a problem for boxing. This guy doesn't deserve any sympathy, any money, anything. He needs to get out of the sport. He obviously doesn't have the heart to be in the sport. It's the fight game. Him and his team can't possibly believe that you can land less than 8 punches max per round and win those rounds with no knockdowns, with no actual shots that are hurting your opponent. That's just completely asinine. Second of all, I really think that, Broner's post-fight interview was very reminiscent of his idol that he tries to copy yet again when Mayweather was talking to, I believe it was Larry Merchant after a fight, and Mayweather went into the same tirade saying, "You never give me a fair shake, blah, blah, blah." He said almost the exact same thing. He said it in their pre-fight with Al Bernstein. He went after him and for Al Bernstein calling it like it is. And Al Bernstein's a pretty fair guy, if you ask me. This guy is just, he doesn't deserve to fight. He doesn't deserve the money. There's plenty of boxers out there that work hard and are looking for those opportunities and don't think that the world owes them everything gift wrapped and think that they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. So I'm glad he lost. I wish he would have got knocked out, completely, so that we could just be done with him. Unfortunately, I think he's going to keep on getting opportunities for whatever reason. I think people are going to keep on giving him, the Broner's going to come out. Broner's going to come out. He's going to be new and improved. I don't think that's ever going to happen. He's lost, like you said, he's lost all his big fights. And arguably even some of the fights that he won, he still lost, like Granados, I think was one I can point out. But I can't stand this guy. I mean, he might be my most hated boxer in all of boxing.
And again, he's just ridiculous. He showed himself to be an ass after that fight. He's fast become a non-MF factor. He is a non-MF factor in my book.
One more point. In that Madonna fight, what I can give him credit for, I don't know if you guys remember, but he was getting beat, but he did actually come back in those, at least I thought, in those later rounds and actually showed a spark of something.
And that's the thing. He fought throughout that fight, even though he was losing. I'd give him credit if he was actually given maximum effort and actually really, really fight. But the problem is whether it was Porter when he's up into that knockdown in the last round, or this fight, or any other of his losses, he just doesn't fight.
Yeah, but I mean that's the point, is that he did it in that his first loss. He did it. He tried to fight his way back, and and he actually, he did have some success in those later rounds. But so we know he's capable. But again, he's such a prima donna that he's basically, like you guys said, he's given up. And so again, I don't think he's going to change. I only think he's going to get worse. And I hope he never fights again. I honestly just don't think that he deserves, for all those people out there that work in and out, that stay in shape, that deserve the opportunities. He does not deserve opportunities anymore. He's had his opportunities and he's blowing it.
Yeah, I will congratulate you and laud you if you give a yeoman's effort, but he's not even giving yeoman's effort anymore. So that's and coupled with how he acts in and out of the ring, coupled with some of the ridiculous stuff he says. Again, to me, he's a non-MF factor. That being said, from my perspective, let's move on to Pacquiao. I mentioned Floyd was in the building. Will we see Mayweather Pacquiao 2? If not, and I'll just open up from here for everybody here, what direction do you see Pacquiao going vis-a-vis the welterweight division in the twilight of his career?
I did. What was my crazy prediction for 2019 when we went over the review?
Yeah, you've been predicting a second fight between Mayweather and Pacquiao for a hot minute.
Yep. And not because I wanted to, but it's because the cynic in me says it makes money. It'll make money no matter what, unfortunately, because Mayweather is still plays a villain role, but he plays it fairly well. And Manny's still a beloved person in the sport, as long as you don't put his position in a lot of issues out of the way. But I want to kind of one thing for Jacob said when it comes to Broner, we're comparing him to Floyd. Floyd, at least in the later parts of his career, is at least willing to listen to criticism. Broner can't even do that.
I'm not comparing them. I'm saying that Broner tries to be like him. They're not even on the same. They're not even playing the same sport. Mayweather,
Oh, no.
I agree with you on that. He's a completely different person. Broner is a joke.
Yeah, in that sense, but
it's the devil in the details. It's the table of contents. It's the packaging in the book. Broner looks at the cover of the book when it comes to Mayweather. While that's part of Mayweather, that's not completely Mayweather. When you read inside, when you open up, look at the table of contents and read the actual book, Mayweather, in spite of how he acts outside the ring himself, when you look at how he applied his trade, he was all business. Broner doesn't understand that. And a lot of these young fighters who are flashy and try to be Floyd like Tank Davis, they don't read the inside of the book. They just look at the cover. They proofread if they do that. And they don't understand that in spite of how Floyd can max out outside the ring, and I have issues with that. I've said it before here and then on other shows. When it comes to inside the ring, when it comes to how he applies his trade, when he says hard work, dedication, he means it.
Yeah, he does. And I wouldn't even say that Broner even looks at the cover. He just reads the Amazon reviews and bases his opinion from that. But like I said, I'm sorry, but that fight's probably going to be next unless something opens up with Thurman, and they'll be crazy enough to probably challenge Canelo for a Mexican Independence Day weekend because Floyd's ego is too big.
Oh dear.
I don't know about that.
Oh dear. Let's hope
I
not.
don't know about that.
Let's hope not. Because Canelo, he's been a weight bully himself, and he would be a weight bully if that fight would happen.
He's too big. Very interesting. If you watched how the call out was made, Floyd didn't say a word, didn't raise an eyebrow, refused actually to look right into the camera. He was sitting right there ringside. He had entered the ring prior to the fight. He has fighters on the card. He was a co-promoter of the card. He had every right to be there, as he should. Pacquiao didn't directly call him out either. His language was, if he wants it, I'm interested. So there was a lot of passive-aggressive stuff going on there. Now, Leonard Ellerbe was asked in the post-fight news conference to his face, will this fight happen? Does Floyd want the fight? And Leonard Ellerbe's answer was absolutely not. And he was pressed on that. And he said, listen, no. How much money does one guy need? Floyd is happy. Floyd is comfortable. Floyd's done. Floyd's done. He kept saying that. Do we believe it? I believe it about as much as when after the Vargas fight, Pacquiao insisted he was retired.
Wait a minute. Let me interrupt. Repeat what Ellerbe said about Floyd and money.
That he had plenty of money. He didn't need the money. He wasn't interested in getting back in and working like a dog that hard again. He was done. He's comfortable. Those days, he kept saying, days are past. That's what he said.
Stop right there. Stop right there. Let me get my Soldier Boy impression here. Floyd says he wants too much money. Floyd?
No,
Floyd?
Floyd has too much money. Not that he wants too much.
He has too much money again.
Floyd? That he doesn't need another dime. Which technically,
Floyd?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
The same Floyd that took a $9 million exhibition in a joke of an epic exhibition? That Floyd?
That's right. That would be the one. That would be the one. Come on. Who are we kidding? It's the biggest money fight for both of them. It's still makeable.
The same Floyd who let himself get embarrassed throughout the press corps with McGregor? That Floyd?
Yep.
For money?
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah. I mean, come on. Who are we kidding? I do think, however, it's very possible prior to that happening, Pacquiao and his team get a good look at what Thurman does this weekend. And if they decide that maybe he doesn't look so great, he looks rusty, there's something they see that they think that they can take advantage of, maybe that is the fight they make. And that wouldn't surprise me. And for Thurman's camp, why wouldn't they? Pacquiao sells tickets. A Pacquiao fight is still, say all you want about Canelo, he's still a major, major draw and moneymaker. And why wouldn't Thurman want a piece of that? Why wouldn't he? I think that's the fight we're going to see next. I don't think we're ever going to see a Crawford fight. I really don't.
Well, not now.
I think Thurman, not now. Thurman is about as heady a level as Pacquiao wants to get to. He's got a couple more years where he's got to sort of tap dance until he can run for president of the Philippines. He can't run until 2022. So he's got to find something to do. And he said post-fight, while not committing to any particular opponent, he absolutely is going to continue. He says he feels good. He's enjoying himself. He sees no reason to stop.
I agree with you, Gil, on the Thurman thing. I really think that because he's now aligned with PBC, Thurman's had the long layoff. He's going to see how he looks against Josesito Lopez, and if he doesn't look anything spectacular, I think they try to make that fight. I think it's a makeable fight, and it's an important fight because Thurman would, if he wins, he'd still be undefeated. Pacquiao has a belt. I think Thurman still has one of the belts, right? If I'm not mistaken, does he have one of them?
WBA.
He technically has a version of the WBA. You know how they do splitting titles up.
Right. So I mean, it would be a significant fight in that division, and we know that Thurman isn't going to fight Spence anytime soon. Spence is with Mikey, tied up with Mikey Garcia. He's got that Crawford thing going. So I mean, there's a lot of pieces here. So Thurman makes the most logical sense.
Because we have so many fights to recap, I'm going to split them much between each individuals. I see EJ Boxing Live has joined us live from the UK. Want to get him into the discussion right now. Open up your mic, EJ. We're talking Manny Pacquiao's win over Adrien Broner. Your thoughts on that? How Pacquiao look? I think he's shown age, but Broner, again, like I said before, Broner does what he does. That's just disappoints and makes a fool of himself. Your reaction to what you saw Saturday night?
Yeah, like it went how I thought it was gonna go. With AB, it's always entertaining and stuff like that. I think people thought AB being knocked out, but I try to point to people that, you know, Marcus Madonna hits pretty hard and he didn't knock him out. And, you know, Dodas Porter, you know, Porter hits hard and he didn't knock him out. So, you know, I know Pacquiao can crack and stuff like that. So I didn't think Pacquiao would knock him out, but exactly how I thought Pacquiao was going to outwork him, and that's what he did. He outworked him, and he looked good. He looked better than the Matisse fight. He looked good, but you know, you're going against a Broner who's not the same no more. Mike, I'll get some feedback this there, man. I don't know what I get. You know what I mean, I was gonna say like he looked better in the Matisse fight. So my thing is that when it comes to Pacquiao obviously he wants the big payday, and I don't know if Floyd's gonna give it to him. I see Floyd kind of like looking at him, just brushing him, man, just really brushing him. Floyd's a very grudgeful guy. He's a very, very grudgeful guy. When you upset him in terms of not giving him respect, he doesn't really, you know, mess with him. And I think at some point, Floyd looked at Pacquiao. It's a hard fight. It's a hard fight, and you know, it's a hard work for his money. He won't get that 500 mil, but is it worth it? Getting him with the Pacquiao that you know you have to be on your game, and as you can see, well, you know, Broner didn't go down from that left hook, man, but you know that rocked him still, and that's what he's bringing that heat. He's still dangerous at that point. You know, if you stand flat-footed in front of him like Floyd would probably do, as you can see with the fighter he fought in Japan and stuff like that. You know, Floyd's, you know, his fat round there. It's the fight that most people would want to see. I think people are not clamoring for that fight like before, man. There's so many other fights with other young fighters. We definitely would watch it if it came apart. But like to get a fight with Floyd, Floyd's gonna make Pacquiao star. But I don't think Floyd feels he needs Pacquiao at this minute. I think Floyd's enjoying just going around beating people around the world, MMA people who claim to feel they can beat him and laughing his head off and doing that. And Pacquiao is trying to Pacquiao's fighting. In my opinion, I think he's fighting to help with his politics. I think if you keep fighting and keep yourself relevant, then you can obviously try and get yourself notable for your country and obviously the people behind you, and then maybe you can get into them positions he wants to get. You know, be the president of the Philippines, which I feel that when he wasn't boxing and he was irrelevant, they thought, nah, it wasn't gonna happen. But if he's boxing and he's beating relevant people, the whole country's behind him, and that's what you need. You need the country behind you to vote for you. He didn't even win the election in his own province. He had to win an election somewhere else in another province. You know what I mean? So how popular is he in the country in the election? So at the end of the day, I'm sure Pacquiao will become president. I'm sure he'll do a lot of good things. As you see, giving out money to his people all the time. Broner, on the other hand, Broner's deluded, man. Broner's deluded. Broner's got a lot of people saying yes people to him and not telling enough people saying, nah, that's not the truth. I mean, the two trainers, I look at them, Cunningham, he seems like a guy who will tell you, you know, as a former police guy, I think he's a guy who will tell you the truth. Another guy, the other trainer, Stafford, I think that Stafford stopped talking when Broner told him to shut up in the corner. I'm okay. That time when he was fighting Madonna, I think that point, that's why I think Broner at some point just telling people how he's going to be because he's paying the bills. I thought Cunningham would be the same, but Broner's got to the point where even all these trainers, yeah, where he got to the point where he's calling the shot because he's paying the bills. And he's letting them know that he's paying the bills as well. You know what I mean? He's more than just, at this point, he's more than just a boxer. He's in other things. He's into music. He's doing other things, ventures and stuff like that. And I don't think boxing is his number one thing he focuses on right now. People still go watch him, but as an elite fighter at this point, I don't think he's there no more. Maybe one more big fight against some other name, but Broner's always getting relevant because that interview went viral, man. Better than the fight. Better than the fight. Better than the hook. That interview with Jim Gray at the end of the thing was a viral thing, man. This people, this memes and everything, and you know what I mean? Yeah, he's deluded, but people were talking about him. If you're talking about him, something so relevant. So my thing on the fight itself was what I expected. And does it change anything? No, but you know, both these guys go their separate ways, and you know, Pacquiao saying that he meant it for Floyd and all that stuff, he's just making excuses, you know. And he did come out the line like Larry Merchant. I mean, Floyd was the first one to obviously attack a report alive. He goes, yo, you don't know shit about boxing. Yeah, HBO need to fire you. And Broner's on the other hand saying, yeah, Broner, in your last fight, You lost so many. And he goes, yeah, I'm 0-0 against you. I mean, that was funny. You know, it was funny, but still. But Broner's funny, but his boxing career in this point is like so much. He was a guy who was good at one point, but at this point he's just fighting off where he used to be before. Manny Pacquiao, to be fair, if he continues, he might run into something, and it won't be nice because there's some guys in the division, unlike Broner, who can give him some trouble. I mean, the Pacquiao has to pick wisely which fights he's gonna bet. So overall, it was okay fight night, you know, and it was okay for boxing. So that's my take.
It was okay for boxing, but it was an indictment on Broner again, in my opinion. Let's move on. Like I said, we're going to split fights up, but I'm going to split it after this particular fight we're going to discuss now. Badou Jack fighting Marcus Browne, vacant WBC interim lightweight title in. I previewed this fight for Three Kings Boxing. I thought that I questioned Browne, not physically, but I questioned his mental makeup. And I just thought that Jack, with his experience, if he could survive the early rounds, that he would really get to Browne. I have to sit here and have a couple slices of humble pie because Marcus Browne fought the fight of his life, and Jack, he may have been a little bit off, but the story of this fight, and I'll go to you on this one first, Daniel, was that cut that he suffered in the 7th round as a result of a headbutt. That cut was one of the worst cuts I've ever seen. For those who hadn't seen it, who have not seen the fight, it was a vertical cut that went from like the middle of his forehead to the bridge of his nose. It looked something straight out of a horror flick. Not only was it long, it was wide and it was deep to the point that you darn near saw bone. The fight continued on, even though there were many who felt that the fight was just so severe that that it should have been stopped. Boxing Twitter was asking the same thing. Referee Meeks, he let the fight continue. So it was kind of two parallel things going on here. On the one hand, it was Browne who won by decision to win the interim belt. It was how well Browne performed. But on the other hand, people just couldn't stop talking about that cut. I mean, he was a bloody mess, Badou Jack. Marcus Browne was a bloody mess due to the blood that was shed by Jack. And the referee, Tony Weeks, he was so bloody. I think you took a picture of this, Gil. He had blood all over his shirt and his pants. You can see pics and videos of him rinsing and wiping the blood off of himself. I mean, it was so bloody that it took a good 15, 20 minutes for them to try to wipe the ring off so the main event could happen. So yeah, it's the fight itself, Daniel, and then the cut. Just to kind of talk about both of those things that were like parallel.
Well, let's talk about the fight first, because what led to the cut, the actual fight. And I was really surprised at how patient Marcus Browne was throughout the fight, not trying to lunge in, keeping distance, and throwing enough combinations where Badou Jack could not get to the body on him successfully. Because that's Badou Jack's forte. Like, yeah, his nickname is the Ripper, but, well, it's the Ripper now for a different reason, but it should have been the body snatcher in a way, just because of the way he actually wins the fights. He grinds you down. He does a body attack. Browne negated all of that by effective jabbing and effective combinations. And it showed that Browne, if you give him enough time, if you give him a camp, if he's motivated enough, he will step up to the plate, because Badou Jack was his biggest test, and he obviously passed with flying colors as far as punch output, as far as game plan, as far as stamina, because he started getting tired a little bit in the, I think, around 7th round. By the 9th, he had a second win. as far as that cut, I made a joke, I think, on EJ's show that it looked like a Demogorgon was coming out of his head for Stranger Things. People have thrown memes of it. EJ, you had the picture of it as your avatar for almost half your podcast. That was just, oh man. Let's see, somebody compared it to an anime. Somebody compared it to the Predator, like the alien coming out. So like the anus could decide to come out of the head instead of the stomach. It was bad, and that is the type of cut that's not going to go away as far as the scar tissue. And it didn't look that bad when it happened in the 7th round due to a headbutt. It got bad in the 11th round due to the Browne uppercut. That tore 2 inches of flesh from it. And it looked like every single time Jack was moving his face that cut was trying to talk, trying to breathe. He's like, they took the fight should have been stopped. I think at the 11th we've seen that. Because when you have Tony Nese looking like a butcher, yeah, it's time to stop it. But luckily, they actually reacted well, took him straight to the hospital afterwards. I don't know if he got, I really, really doubt he got stitches. He probably got staples instead. And yeah, that's not a cut that's going to go away. That's
they look like stitches. They look like stitches. The picture that they showed.
Ooh. Well, either way, that's a scar that's not going to go away. That thing's going to be a permanent fixture of Badou Jack's face with how deep it went. Jesus Christ.
Mike, did you see? You saw the picture, right? Was it stitches?
It looked like stitches to me. It looked like stitches to me. And I'll go to you, EJ. In terms of Marcus Browne, I could just sum it up like this: Carpe diem. He seized the moment. It was the biggest fight of his career, and he stepped it up. The way he fought against Badou Jack, the argument can be made that Badou Jack, even before the cut, he didn't look like himself. He is 35. He's had a series of tough fights against top competition, and we should give Browne credit first and foremost before even talking about the cut itself. The way Marcus Browne fought that night, he's going to be tough to deal with any of these top light heavyweights.
Absolutely. You know, Marcus, like after that performance, I said, yeah, he legitly, because Badou Jack is a tough out. He legitly, to me, one of the tough guys there. And I'll tell you what, he's a future champion. You know, I know Teddy Atlas got that guy. What's the guy's name? The guy Teddy Atlas got? Anyone know his name?
Gvozdyk you're talking about?
Yeah, Srisaket, bro. That's a good ass fight, man. Like, I actually think he can beat him. He has, I mean, you know, that style, smash and grab, and he's so lengthy and he's very cocky. He reminds me of Chad Dawson, but just more athletic. He reminds me of that kind of, in that mold, you know what I mean? Cocky. Bad, was it Bad Chad? I think his name was Bad Chad, isn't it? Bad Chad Dawson, whatever. He got that arrogance that you need to be a champion. I know some people rubs people the wrong way, but he told Badou Jack already in the press conference, you know what I mean? They said to him about would you feel like if he gets the decision because he's with Floyd and that? He goes, he ain't even American. I'm American. And I was like, whoa, this dude, he was talking big. And it's the first time I actually see him like that. He really seized the moment, and he was an excellent boxing display. Badou Jack caused that headbutt, in my opinion. His style is such a style that he leans with his head, the high guard, and I feel he caused that headbutt, in my opinion. Just coming forward. I know they both clashed when I watched it in slow-mo, but he was always trying to come in because he was trying to work the body, and consequently that head clashing. And Daniel was there in the podcast when we were watching it live when he had got cut. And I've seen it before, and I said that headbutt happened like when Marvin Hagler fought Tommy Hearns, and it was the same cut in the same area. But you know, it didn't go long enough for that cut to open up, as we've seen. You know, later on in the latter rounds when the uppercut came, and you see it, and the thing just tore. I mean, I was looking at that thing, and my first opinion come. I'm not trying to, disparage no women, You know, in Jamaica, yeah, we have the word, but I'm just gonna use the word pum pum, bro. That's what I'm gonna say. But like that, it looked like that. Like it was disgusting, man. It was ripped. And then my whole thing is Luke Deval in the corner. He's like, nah, don't worry about the cut. The cut's all right. Think, be Mike Tyson. Think about I said, dude, listen. Actually, I got some amateur. I do amateur. I'm an amateur trainer. There's a boxer I did on my thing. And like we lost the decision weekend. I'm kind of upset, but we're gonna go again. But I'm telling you, right? If that was me, I would have done the fight, bro. I would have stopped it right there. And exactly what will happen, it's gonna get worse. The cut ripped further, the more blood, and that's that was even bigger than the fight. You know what I mean? That was just a viral thing. It looked like something was gonna come out the head. It was, you know what I mean? It was scary, like a horror film. If there was kids, women, and children, hide. It was that bad. It was gross. And then Tony Weeks' shirt was ripped of blood. You know, and I give credit to Badou Jack. You know, he was like, yo, man, he was just cool. Yo, that guy's a warrior, man. He's a warrior, but I feel he's seen better days. He's still better days. He's had a hard run, back to back, been a champion. He was a champion at that weight class, gave up the belt, went against Adonis Stevenson, went against James DeGale. Like, he's been so many hard roads. And Marcus, he came in as a cruiserweight. And I was like, rah, this is just one step too far for the kid. And in my opinion, at this point stage, in that, I mean, can he beat the other guys in the division? There's some really good division. I think the light heavyweight division is like one of the best division in boxing. And in my opinion, it's listen, Marcus Browne is the sky's the limit. You know, I want to see him again. I hope he's very active. He's very cocky. You know, the whole Teddy Atlas thing, talking about he's from Brooklyn, whatever. And he, I feel like I'm the best trainer. It was really good. I like that. I like the arrogance about him. He's the rising of a star. Can he beat him? We have to see. But for Badou Jack, go back to drawing board. And I think if he gets offered by any of the champions, he should take it. Whether you think it's low ball, whatever, take it. Boxing on the other hand just shows you how this game is a serious game, and it shows you if you haven't got the right people into these boxers can get really hurt, because end of the day, yeah, you look at that cut, and I know that they wiped out and they stiffed it up, but man, I mean, what's going on with the training? Listen, bro, that thing could have opened up like a banana skip. You know what I mean? What if it split all the way down through his hairline and the shit, and then his head just opened up and something popped out? I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean? Like, why would you let the thing continue? The referee let it continue. The trainer in the corner let it continue, and the thing was just bleeding and bleeding. The man's face was a mask of red. The most hideous thing I've seen since Vladimir Klitschko fight Lennox Lewis in the corner. That cut is something that you're gonna remember. You can have nightmares on it, and that's what I gotta say on it. But hey, Marcus, he's definitely one to watch.
In terms of Jack's trainer, Lou Deval, who himself was a former champion at light heavyweight. My only rationale for his commentary during the corner, and EJ is correcting what he was saying to him, be like Mike Tyson, the cut's not that bad. The only thing I can think of is that he didn't want to put fear in Badou Jack, but on the other hand, if it has to go to that point, yeah, he should have stopped the fight. I mean, anybody. I mean, Gail, you was at the fight. You was talking before the show, and you mentioned how they showed it on the big screen, and there was a collective gasp in the arena. Those again who on EJ's channel. I know some other channels who was covering it live. Boxing Beats and Rhymes, boxing and as well as boxing Twitter, was just like the overall consensus was, this is nasty. This is horrible. The fight should have been stopped. I mean, for future references, if anybody want to show a pic of that cut on Badou Jack, they ought to do it with a trigger warning, because that's how nasty and how ugly it was. I'll go to you, Gail, since you were in the building, and you can follow up, Jacob. Thoughts on that cut, but more importantly, thoughts on the performance of Marcus Browne, because in the end, that should be first and foremost when you talk about this fight. The performance of Marcus Browne, how excellent he looked in there, in spite of that nasty gash over Badou Jack's eye. well, really forehead, that's really the talk still.
You can't help it. You absolutely can't help it when you saw it. It is still the talk. Now, for those who haven't seen the aftermath, go to Badou Jack's Instagram page. He shows himself being stitched up, and he shows a very good close-up of the cut repaired. There's about 30 stitches. It is stitched. Whoever did the work did beautiful work, really did. It's an interesting wound. It's not straight up and down. It's quite curved, which is interesting. But it looks like it's well repaired. He's going to need to let it heal, which will take some time. Nature will take its course. To me, you're right. We need to focus, however, past that cut on what Browne achieved. And the thing that Browne took advantage of is the one criticism Badou Jack has always gotten, is that he is slow off the starting line, that he's just too cautious in the early rounds. He doesn't get engaged. Everybody merits the courtesy of that get acquainted tune-up round in round one. But beyond that, you need to start your game plan. And Jack tends not to engage in those, sometimes even in the first half of the fight. And he digs himself a hole when he does that. Browne's team knew that and had him roar straight out of the gate and be the more active guy. And you start rolling up rounds on the scorecard when you do that. Very, very smart approach. And probably the best performance of Browne's career. He was a member of that 2012 Olympic team. And of all the guys on the team then, he's really the one that has not come even close to the promise he showed back then. Funny enough, there's an article written at the time of the Olympics, it's not too tough to find, where there were predictions about who would be the most successful off of that team. Marcus Browne was up near the top. Guess who was near the bottom of the list from that team? A guy that probably wasn't going to do all that well as a pro. Oh, that would be one Earl Spence Jr. So take that with a grain of salt. They even put Dominic Brazil and Tyrell Gaucher and Jamel Herring above Spence, which is quite funny. But finally, Browne cashed in on the promise he'd shown as an Olympian. I think he's bitten off a lot going up against either of the belt holders for whom he's now the mandatory. He's the mandatory for WBA belt holder Dimitri Bivol, in addition to being mandatory for WBC belt holder Alexander Gvozdyk. In my opinion, the smarter of the two fights for him is probably Bivol. I think he has a sliver of a chance against Bivol. I think Gvozdyk crushes him like a bug, unfortunately. But that is probably the flashier fight and the bigger money fight. But maybe not. Bivol has recently signed with DAZN. That seems to be where the division is heading. So he's got some good opportunities ahead of him. I hope he gets good advice and that he maximizes this opportunity. Back to the cut, because we all want to talk about the damn cut. And yeah, the arena, once Badou Jack turned to the camera during the stoppage in the 11th round, Tony Weeks wiped his forehead off so the ringside physician could get a good look. He turned to the in-ring camera, which was shown on these jumbotrons. Imagine that cut being shown about 15 feet high, all right, in all its glory. And the entire sold-out arena just all together at once, which is quite a noise when people are that shocked. In my opinion, and in the opinion of my seatmate for the entire fight, who happened to be Joe Cortez, I asked Joe, would you have stopped that fight after the 11th round? He said, yes, I would have. There's no point. He's way, way, way behind on the cards. He's not going to get a knockout. Might as well stop it. I agree with them. The reason I would have stopped it was the blood flow and his inability to see, coupled with the fact he was so far behind on the cards. I was a little less concerned about the cut itself. Now, all of you, it was a horror show. I get it. Looking at that thing, it was ugly. But I've seen a lot more dangerous cuts that were a fraction of that size when they're in a different place. You know, this cut was against the skull. There's nothing under there really that's going to get damaged. Is the skin on the front part of the forehead going to maybe tear a little more? Well, maybe. Is that a life-threatening wound? Well, no, not really. It really isn't. It wasn't anywhere near his eyes. I'm not sure it was that dangerous a cut. It was grotesque, and it was, you know, the saying is he was bleeding like a stuck pig was never more true. And if you do want to see how badly he was bleeding and not really want to look at the cut, those of you listening, go to my Twitter feed, PR Pro San Diego, PR Pro San Diego. There is a photo taken immediately after the fight of Tony Weeks, which Joe and I took and posted. Shows Weeks covered in Badou Jack's blood. I've never seen a referee more drenched in my entire life. And Tony was just sort of, yeah, well, hazards of the job. Oh well. He was not fazed about it at all. But it was bad. Yeah, I think it should have been stopped, but not necessarily for the wound. To me, more for the impaired eyesight and the fact that he was so far behind on the cards.
Your thoughts on what you saw, Jacob, Marcus Browne in his win over Badou Jack?
You know, Marcus Browne deserves credit. He did what he needed to do to win the fight. You know, it's unfortunate that headbutt happened, but that happens in boxing, and you know, it was a very bad cut. I personally thought they should have stopped the fight for things that were already mentioned on here. You know, he was behind pretty far on the scorecards, and I understand, you know, he's a former champion, and we want to give him, you know, the chance, and you know, if he's saying that he can continue, but sometimes you got to save fighters from themselves, and I just feel like, you know, if you keep on punching that same spot, the skin is very sensitive, and it could just keep on splitting, and nobody wants that. You know, the main thing is the safety of the fighters, right? You know, and you know, you want to live to fight another day. I know we were talking about it earlier, but the severity of that cut, I think Jack's going to be, or he should be out for a while, because that thing's got to heal. It's a massive gash, and you know, a lot of stitches, and how Gail said, you know, it is kind of straight up and down, but it has a little curve to it. But if he doesn't heal that thing correctly and doesn't give it proper time to heal, I think it could. I wouldn't be surprised if it split open again, which would be terrible. So, you know, hopefully speedy recovery, live to fight another day. I think it was just an off night for Jack, and you know, Gail did mention it though, but he does get off. He's a slow starter, so you know, unfortunately, maybe he's got to change that part of his game.
See, Gus has joined us live in the YouTube chat. Gus from Corruption and Boxing, shout out to him. Was not going to talk about this, but he was mentioning the fight between Rashid Warren and Obin Obali, bantamweight title WBC version, the vacant WBC bantamweight title. Obali winning by decision over Rashid Warren. For those who saw the fight, quick word on that, please, for those who saw it.
What was the fight again?
The
Obali versus Rashid Warren.
Rashid Warren bout.
Oh God.
I'll just quickly say, for me, you know, I've never really rated, Rashid Warren in his fights because of this. One, I think Rashid Warren, he fights a little more than amateur. His style is very amateurish still, in my opinion, and when there's moments of him to really step it up, he doesn't. And it showed in this fight once again. That fight was his for the taking, and he gave it away. Obali took advantage, saw the moment of mental lapse and weakness, and came on and basically stole the fight from Rashid Warren. So again, that's my thoughts on it. For anybody else who saw it, a quick word on it, please.
Yeah, Yeah, I saw that fight. It was very close, man. A couple of rounds, I must have went somewhere and like I didn't see it. So my total scorecard, I came back as a draw. Me and Daniels watched it together, but because I missed them last rounds, but it seemed to me like it was a very close round as they fought a couple of times in the Olympics and whatever. And but Rashid Warren, man, with all the flash and brash and how he comes in after a dog chain around his neck and all that. You know, I thought, yo, man, you call him Pitbull and stuff like that, but he's really a finesse fighter. He's a really finesse fighter. He wasn't working. In my opinion, he didn't work enough. The same kind of thing with Broner. Is it the Bandcamp thing where the dudes come in and they don't work enough? You know, they're caught on the hype and they got other things going on. But you got to work for it. The other kid, the French kid, every time Rashid Warren got him, he came back with something. He answered right back, man. He wasn't. And yeah, he wasn't bothered about none of the swag. He was just like an old school blue collar worker that, yeah, get some feedback, Michael. The guy from Algeria, whatever, French guy, Algeria, whatever he's from. He was just an old school worker, man. He just kept hacking. It was back and forward. Seriously, it was a back and forward fight. It was quite interesting. It wasn't a boring fight. It was a good fight to hold people's attention. But at the end of the day, you know, he came a bit short. And you know, it's still far and few between. You got stars and superstars. Rashid Warren is good. He's an okay fighter. But at this point, you know what I'm saying? Like at that stage, you can't win a world title when you got everything going for you. That guy came from another country. You're fighting at home in America. You know, you got everything going for you. You should be able to capitalize on it. But it doesn't want any day. You know, maybe you can go challenge the other champions out in the division. But for the other kid, like he's good. He's sponsored by MTE Global. That's over in the UK. But that's Matthew Macklin's company. And that's a good look as well. That's a very good look. You know, they got another champion over there. So congrats to them. And yeah, man, it was an overall entertaining fight. It wasn't boring. It's just that, you know, for Rashid Warren, it's a bit disappointing. You know, the stage was there for him to be a superstar, to capitalize it like Marcus Browne. That's what you got to do. You have to capitalize it and keep people in your mind. Remember, the PBC is just started now in terms of that was one of their biggest shows, right? The second biggest show, the biggest show with Broner. And like when you're on that spotlight, you need to shine. Maybe you get another opportunity, and maybe he does better. But you know, time is not on his side. So overall, it was an alright fight for the fight fans, and it just held people's attention and got people ready for the main event. But it was a good fight, and congratulations to the champion.
Yeah, it definitely kept the attention of the people in the arena. They watched. Didn't hurt that Roy Jones was in his corner, which for an American audience, that was a big deal. And he put on a great effort. He did a lot of sparring with Nonito Donaire to prepare for the fight. And I think it did him a world of good. Roy and Nonito were very high on him, and they proved to be right. I think Warren's problem is that unlike a lot of American fighters, he spent a long time in the amateur system, which in the United States is just nothing compared to what it is in Eastern Europe. The infrastructure to support somebody's development year after year after year is just not there. Remember, he was in three Olympics. So even from start to finish, just counting that's 8 years. That's a long time. I don't think he's been able to throw off, as a lot of you have said, the amateur style because he was so immersed in it for so long. He just can't get it out of his system. And it's hurt him. It's just really hurt him. He's never developed any significant power. And he doesn't have the speed that can negate somebody else's power. So he's left with very few tools other than work rate and strategy. And when those fail him, you see what happened on Saturday. It's too bad. He's a likable guy. I think he probably trains hard. But, he got his clock cleaned.
Let's move on. At this point, I'm going to start splitting fights up between everybody here. Want to go to this Pacquiao Broner fight in the cards on that took place Saturday. Want to go to the DAZN card that took place. I want to say Friday. Yeah, it took place Friday. Going to begin going to you, EJ. If you saw the fight, if not, I'll just move to someone else. Talking about Demetrius Andrade, and we're going to have some news regarding Demetrius Andrade later on in the show. Fought Artur Akavov And I'm looking at this fight, EJ. I said that even though Akavov arguably beat Billy Joe Saunders, that was as much about the piss poor condition and effort that Saunders came into the fight, and he fought like a dog during that fight. That was more about Saunders than it was about Akavov. And in this fight, I just didn't see anything that Akavov could do that could give Andrade trouble. And that was basically the case. Andrade, he didn't even need to get out of first gear in order to beat this guy. This was easy. This was easy work for him.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, man. I had my thing set up. I was watching it, but I fell asleep, man. That thing bored me to death, man. I just saw the highlights at the end, and he knocked him, and the guy was complaining about the stoppage at the end. But Andrade good, man. He's really good. He's really coming on well. He controlled him with the jab. The highlights I was watching. I mean, I did watch it like the day after, but it was hard for me to stay awake watching that, man, because to me it was just one-sided. He showed he levels easier than Billy Joe Saunders, and he just controlled the fight and did what he wanted. I've never heard of that dude. Probably hear him again. I know he went against Billy Joe Saunders, but it was just a fight that you knew that it's like the fight coming up recently with Jose Lopez and Keith Thurman. You know what kind of outcome is going to happen. You know what I mean? It's not hard. Like, we'll see what Jose Andrade, he's busy. You want to see him against a name. He's called out names. And it was an easy fight for him. What I expected is nothing. Wasn't surprised by it. It's just him getting more acclimatized in the division. The thing I did like him calling that Triple G. So he ready for Triple G right now, So they understand that Triple G is the man of the division, and if you want to make some waves and be noticed, you want to challenge the best. So I like the idea he challenge Triple G. Will Triple G take that challenge? I don't know, but if they fought, I would favor Triple G. It's just, I think I favor Triple G. I mean, people call for him, but when he comes here, I'm not sure you want him. I'm not sure if Andrade. I mean, he's definitely got the boxing ability. My whole thing is like, you can keep him out for a bit, but what happens when he gets inside and starts landing on you, man? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you've been hit with that heat. Hit with someone like Triple G landing on you, bro. Like Curtis Stevens and Ox, all of them. When he hits you, it's something different. Can Triple G get to him? Where it's shown that he can get past Jacobs and and Canelo can get to you. He can hit you at some point. So I'm not too sure if he can beat him, but I like the idea he called him up. But overall, it was a boxing exhibition on my part, and a good stoppage by Demetrius Andrade.
I'll go to you, Gail, to talk about this next fight on that Andrade Akavov undercard. I want to talk about Armando Serrano. We went into plenty of detail in terms of the issue of weight regarding Serrano. And during last week's show, Serrano, who's been fighting at 135, 140 range, she went all the way down to 115 for this fight. Expressed some concerns about going down for this fight. And she ended up winning in the first round, but that doesn't mean I was satisfied with what I saw, Gail. It was pretty much known that Serrano was going to knock this woman out. Even Serrano's trainer said she was going to body this girl. To me, Gail, Serrano came off as a weight bully. She came off as a weight bully in this fight. She put on 20 pounds from the weigh-in to fight night. She overpowered this woman, excuse me, and it was easy. We could see it from a mile away. It was like Jaime Munguia and Saddam Ali. You knew once you saw any footage of Jaime Munguia that they set Saddam Ali up. You knew that Munguia was going to body Saddam Ali. Same thing here. And what made it even worse for me, Gail, is that when asked about Katie Taylor, she kind of hemmed and hawed around the answer. With Marcus Browne, in comparison, Marcus Browne, who we talked about fighting Badou Jack, he was asked about the Gavostic or certain fighters in the light heavyweight division. He said basically, bring them on. I think that's one of the things that EJ liked in terms from a personality perspective. In this fight with Serrano, there was a golden moment for her to say to one of the more prominent women fighters in the world, let's make it happen, let's do it. And when it was there for her, she really didn't do it. So overall, yeah, she got the win and she destroyed the girl. And on the surface, it seems like she's a sensation in a certain aspect she is, but below the surface, again, for me, there was many aspects about this that I didn't like one bit.
I'm with you. Let's put this into context. Amanda Serrano naturally fights at lightweight, right? Let's imagine Vasyl Lomachenko dropping enough weight to fight Juan Francisco Estrada or Srisaket Sor Rungvisai. Huh? I mean, this to me, yeah, Ali and Munguia, it reminded me a little more of Canelo and Amir Khan. I mean, or Liam Smith. Come on. This is ridiculous. She dropped 20 pounds to make this fight, and she put nearly all of it back on overnight. There's a problem when the sport allows this. She was a bully. She was a weight bully. That's dangerous, not just for the opponent who's fighting a woman so much bigger than she is. And admittedly, she took the fight. She knew what she was getting into. So she went in with her eyes open, but no one should have permitted this. There's also an issue for a lot of women in a sport that relies on weight, who already have body issues, built into societal expectations about somebody doing what it takes to take off 20 pounds in that short a time. Michael, you and I both know she did not do that in any way that was healthy, especially if she could put it all right back on. That's dangerous to her and her health. So I don't like it a bit. She's a good fighter. She doesn't need to do this. That's the real shame of it. It's not like she's a journeywoman, and she had to do it to get a check. No, she has plenty of opportunities. So sure enough, she absolutely crushed her opponent. In fact, she broke some of her ribs. No surprise there. And maybe it was to make her look formidable for an eventual fight with Katie Taylor. And that is what everybody expects in the future. Katie Taylor and Amanda have been on a collision course for quite a long time. She's called her out. She's criticized her sister Cindy's husband as a wife beater. She beat the hell out of her. It's interesting. It's one of the more ugly rivalries in women's boxing. But it is the fight that needs to be made. And I'm not sure why Serrano was so pensive about it. I don't know if she was realizing what had just happened in the ring and her role in it, and felt some remorse. So she dialed it back. I'm not quite sure. Taylor's back in the ring next month. I think once that fight is concluded, a lot more of this will become clear, but I don't really see this as a very proud moment for boxing in general.
Indeed, I'll go to you, Jacob. If Pacquiao Broner was the big fight of the weekend, and if Marcus Browne and his performance over Badou Jack was arguably the performance of the weekend to many, and I got some comments from Gus about that fight. I'll talk about it after this question I'm going to ask to you. This next fight I'm going to discuss with you, Jacob. The upset of the weekend, maybe the upset of the year so far, was Jorge Linares not just losing against Pablo Cesar Cano, but getting knocked down 3 times and knocked out in the first round. Who saw that coming?
Sorry, was that to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, Linares is an interesting guy. He had a good performance against Lomachenko, but he has been beaten before, and he has been hurt before, and he's been, stopped before. So it just seemed like his opponent, Cano, was he looked like too big for him, and I don't know, he caught Linares, and that last knockdown, I mean, he just wobbled back, and it didn't look like he disputed it, and also it was a big upset. I think more so that it ended in the first round more than anything. You expect more out of Linares, but this is kind of bad news for Linares because I know he was looking to potentially get that rematch with Lomachenko, but this all but derails him, I think, from that. But I got to get up to Cano or Cano. He went in there and put it on him, and he was able to knock him down 3 times to get the win. Puts him on the map.
Linares, after the bout, said he's going to continue his career, but at 135. But given how he lost here, Jacob, this is going to be a follow-up question. Do you even see him getting a worthy fight at 135? And given his chin issues, how would you think he would fare, even if he was to get a big fight at this point?
He's still a name. I think he can still get a good fight. I mean, if someone, he can bait someone into fighting him because he's a name, and it would be a good win if he were to get beat again by whoever his opponent was. It would be a good notch on their belt for them. So I don't think he's going to have any trouble getting a fight. My question would be, how much longer does he have? Like, he might be on the. I think he's on the downward part of his career. I think he's hit his potential. I would have loved to see him fight Mikey Garcia, back, what was it, last year? That never, happened. He had a kind of a so-so fight with a performance with, Luke Campbell. I mean, it was a good performance, but, he did get hurt in that fight. Gesta was a, okay fight. The Cotto fight was, just a kind of a give-me fight after losing to Lomachenko. So I think he's made his last run, in my opinion. I don't know that he's going to be able to. He's still a good fighter, but I just don't think that he's getting older, and I don't think he's going to be able to hold up to the new breed of fighters. And I don't know if that he'll get up top again. So he might start thinking about hopefully financially he's done well for himself, but start to think about where do I go here for my career? And let's end it on a positive note, not like keep on fighting until I get my brains beat out and then I'm shaking like crazy.
If Linares' if Linares' KO loss to Cano was the upset of the year so far, Daniel, a close second is what took place also Friday on ESPN with Bryant Jennings and Oscar Rivas. Jennings, who was up after the 11th round pretty comfortably. Rivas, after getting some inspiring words from the corner, just came out with that final round like a house of fire, hurt Jennings, and then finished him off. Came from nowhere, Daniel. Your level of surprise at what you saw in terms of Oscar Rivas and stunning comeback win over Bryant Jennings.
It's the one punch that you don't see coming that'll usually end the fight. And that's what happened through the whole fight. Rivas was landing good there, but Jennings was working his defense well. And in the later rounds was getting through a good rhythm, but he just got blitzed in the 12th round. I think it was with a straight right through the guard, and that was it. And with Jennings, like, we know he's going down. Like, Luis Ortiz took him down. We know that. We know I think he got knocked down his last fight too. So we know he has a little bit of chin issues now. But if that was more on Oscar Rivas recognizing the moment, seeing that, okay, I have a man hurt. I need to do this now. Because amazingly enough, Jennings was near the top 10 on 3 of the 4 sanctioning bodies coming into this fight. But to me, like, he was still trying to get back into the contender discussion because the heavyweight division has filled up a little bit, particularly as us on the American Western Hemisphere side since he fought Klitschko. And now he's completely taken out of it. Like, you got to feel good for Rivas. Like, he's a good kid. He's like, it shows that record where he had them, I think it was 17 fights He ended by knockout. That's not a joke. But it may be time for Jennings to really look into what's going on. It happens to a lot of fighters. It has happened to a lot of Philly fighters too. It's almost the same weird little path that Eddie Chambers took, where he started looking good. He had his fight with Klitschko, and then ultimately faded out of the picture. Jennings maybe headed on the same path where like, he had his match with Klitschko. He had a good run and trying to be near the top of the chamber. Like if it wasn't for the fact that he took the Klitschko fight, he would have fought Deontay Wilder. But that's a very huge upset. You were probably been in the top rank, wanted to get into that now very, very, very lucrative heavyweight division pie. And now they don't have a dog in the race.
Indeed, certainly a disappointing win for Brian Jennings and a real setback, which at his age and at this stage of his career, I really don't know if he can recover from, to be honest. Going to the news here, back to you, EJ, because it concerns a fighter in your part of the world. That is one Billy Joe Saunders, or the person who Daniel affectionately called Billy Ho. News broke late today, our time, U.S. time, that the WBO had lifted the suspension of Billy Joe Saunders and has ordered that Demetrius Andrade, who we talked about earlier, his win over Akavov, they ordered that Andrade fight Billy Joe Saunders. Thoughts of this in the UK? For me, once you knew something was up. At least I knew something was up. Once you looked at the rankings last week and you just saw that Billy Joe Saunders suddenly appeared in the top 10, and it's like, okay, what's going on here? He was suspended. They removed him from the rankings, and then all of a sudden he appears in the top 10. Something's about to go down. And today we found out what went down is that the suspension was lifted, and that basically they're going to put him in a position to fight Andrade. Your reaction, and from the circles that you roll with on the British UK boxing scene, the reaction to the news today regarding Billy Joe Saunders.
Yeah, I reacted like everyone. You know, Billy Joe, I mean, I can only go by what he said in his recent interview with the IFL. He's a jokester, he's a prankster. Some of the stuff he done, he does it anyway, but he didn't think that he was trying to offend anyone with the cracking and stuff. And now with the drugs and stuff, the drugs thing, taking a nasal spray, and it's been lifted, and then I don't know if he wants it. I questioned, and this is just me, my opinion, then I'll give you what other people think. I questioned that he wanted that fight anyway. I think he was doing that stuff deliberately to get himself out of the fight. Now he's been made #1 ranking. I think he'll just sit there with that and see what Andrade does, and sit there, see if Andrade vacates the belt, and then he might go for it. I don't think he wants that fight. I don't think he ever wanted that fight, you know. Andrade, you know, is useful, and yeah, he'll just sit there and say that, you know, it's more to ego thing. Frank Warren and Pacquiao, because Pacquiao for Sal, whatever, obviously they've come to some agreement. They've made him #1, and he'll sit there and let's see what happens. Some people are #1 contender for years, and they never get a challenge. They're not ordered to go purse bids or anything like that. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it goes purse bids, and they bring it in the UK. They bring Andrade in the UK. When before, it was going to be in Boston, I believe, and that would have suited Andrade. So maybe they're going to bring it so purse bids that he can come back to the UK, and then probably if that's the case, then Billy Joe will take it. You know what I'm saying? So it might be some chess move going on there. In terms of the fight, you know, I still favor Andrade, whether it's wherever, because he's been more active. I don't know Billy Joe Saunders' mindset. You know, does he want to fight? We don't know right now. Over what happened and stuff like that, it was a horrible year for him, from the great fight with Lemieux, looking out the ring, until this. You know, asking a woman on the road to hit another man, and sending, you know, she wanted it, trying to sell her for drugs and stuff like that, and also with the whole thing with Deontay Wilder and the chicken race, and just it ain't been a good year for him, obviously, with the drugs and stuff like that. You know, yeah, it's not a good year for the guy. But hey, he's got #1 contender. I'm sure that's probably made him feel better. But Will he take it? We shall see at this space. But people in the UK, if you ask my opinion, UK, I don't think they care. I don't think anyone cares at this point because people are fed up with the antics of Billy Joe Saunders. And you know, in the day, you're a boxer. We want to see. This ain't WWE where you're out here talking too much. We want to see people in the ring, and he can do it in the ring. Can he do it again? I'm not too sure. I'm not sure. But if he can, and we get the fight, I'll be happy. If it doesn't, I don't really care. And so, that's my opinion.
If Hearn is a promoter of his word, and he really has Andrade's back, there's no way he lets Warren win a purse bid. No way.
This is the thing, right? Again, it comes down to the same thing again. Do they want that fight, or they just want to have just like having the ranking? Because the thing about in the UK, you have to understand, yeah, it's all about how we look, how we're perceived. You know what I'm saying? So we won the case, so we're perceived. Frank Warren can go on and say, well, look, he's been cleared by the WBO and other people. He didn't take no nasal spray, and he's basically cleared his reputation. Now, because his reputation is cleared, then that sends the way he can do what he wants. He can fight whoever he wants to fight. You know, he don't have to fight Thingy. Even though he's got number one ranking, they might pursue to take it or not. You're right, with Hearn and DAZN, right? Very powerful. They win. But again, let's be real. How many purse bids Eddie Hearn actually won? Because I know for a fact that when it comes to purse bids, he's very stingy, even with DAZN money. He don't want to spend no money. So if it comes down to purse bids, I wouldn't be surprised if Frank Warren doesn't mind putting his money in his pocket and bringing it to UK, you know, because he knows if he give this guy a chance, i.e. the situation with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. So don't think Hearn goes around like he's Mr. Big Bucks out here. He don't like to spend money. He's an accountant by trade, and his dad's an accountant. They don't like to spend money, and when it comes to purse bid, Eddie Hearn rarely puts his money for it. He makes a lot of fight money for his fighters because he puts them on the road and gives them a shot. But in terms of that purse bid, I can see him just conceding and letting the fight happen in the UK. I mean, why would Hearn would probably like it in the UK? Hearn's got more power in the UK than he has in the States. So I'm just saying, in terms of the side of the decision, if you know what I mean. So
yeah. Going to the chat here because Gus from Corruption in Boxing is listening on the live chat. Going back to his comments, or referring back to the discussion we had over Marcus Browne, and especially Rashid Warren. He said Rashid Warren is still a far better technician. He says that Rashid Warren is a better technician than Marcus Browne. I don't know about that. He calls that Warren fight the fight of the weekend. He also says Marcus Browne. He doesn't think that he beats the top contenders at 175 pounds. He says that Beterbiev hits too hard and Gavoski hits long and straight. He will favor both of them to beat Marcus Browne. Going to open up the discussion to everyone else here about the situation regarding Billy Joe Saunders. And I'll go to you, Jacob, and then you can follow up Gail and Daniel. Your reaction to the news regarding Billy Joe Saunders, as well as the account from EJ and the perspective over in the UK vis-a-vis Billy Joe.
I mean, again, it's boxing politics. I'm not surprised that, you know, these sanctioning bodies do this nonsense, you know. I'm not, I don't think that I don't feel like it's not that Billy Joe Saunders doesn't want the fight, but I also don't think that he's gonna give up his tomfoolery, we'll call it. I think he's just gonna continue to, you know, he's one of those guys like kind of like Tyson Fury, where he kind of wears that badge of traveler honor on his sleeve, and he's like, I'm not going to change for nobody. I'm going to do what I want to do, and damn the consequences, even if it's, you know, his career. And you know, that's not the smartest thing to do, in my opinion, because this is your livelihood. But you know, I just don't think that he has people around him that are telling him, you know, kind of like we were talking about earlier, telling him the things that he should hear versus the things that he wants to hear. And he's been able to get this far on his, you know, his talent, and you know, until something really bad happens, I don't think that he's going to stop that. So, you know, I would still like to see the fight, you know, so hopefully it happens. because he is undefeated and he is, you know, he was the belt holder, and we were very close to seeing that fight. I think it could have been an interesting fight. So, you know, we'll see what happens.
The only thing I would say, Jacob, is that I would push back somewhat with the Billy Joe and Fury comparisons, and the reason I say that is when Fury's locked in, he's locked in. In spite of his mouth, in spite of his antics, he will tend to business when he's locked in, outside of the 2-year layoff. With Billy Joe, to me, he's Broner in a sense. And the reason I say that is you can't trust him. I can't trust Billy Joe. He'll fight well against David Lemieux, and as EJ talked about, what has he done since? Outside of proposing money to a lady on the street to have some sex with his boy, or try to cause ruckus with Deontay Wilder in some restaurant, or comments here and there, you can't trust him. Just like I can't trust Broner because of how he acts in his mouth.
I don't completely trust Fury though. Yeah, just because he fought 2 weird fights and Wilder, and I give him credit. You know, he showed up and he did well, but again, I think his road to recovery is still a long one. Anybody that's dealt with anybody that's had addiction in their past, it's not something that you get rid of, you know, right away. It's a struggle day to day to day. So there's no, you know, I think it's too early to say that Fury is a cured person and he won't run into any other problems in the future. I just think it's too early for that.
Duly noted, but I will just say that for me, I think he's locked in. The fact that he's in the gym basically days after that fight, I know he's training now. At the time, as of right now, he's tuned in and he's in a good space. I can't say that about Billy Joe Saunders right now. Now, could Fury fall off the wagon moving forward? Of course. Addiction is real and things can prop back up. But as of right now, I think he's there. I think he's there. Unlike Billy Joe. I'll go to you, Gail. Your reaction to this again. This is why I said even after the Lemieux fight, when people was talking how good he looked, and he did, I was like, okay, yeah, but what's going to happen the next fight? He hasn't fought since.
No, he hasn't. You know, if people were willing to watch a fight with Adrien Broner in the ring, who's had equally, if not worse behavior outside the ring, they should be able to watch Billy Joe Saunders. I mean, you know, if we discounted every single possible opponent because of their issues outside the ring, you know, we thin the ranks pretty fast. You know, he served his suspension. He did his time. If the WBL wants to order the fight, you know, going to order the fight. He is not a bad opponent. He's got a track record, you know, that owes him some respect for it. We'll see what happens. I think he's going to have problems. You know, he just seems to have these long layoffs. Maybe you can get away with those things when you're younger. It gets harder and harder and harder. You know, but we did think that Lemieux was going to have his way with him, and he didn't. So he may surprise us again, you know, and pull another one out of the fire. But I'd say those being really hard on Saunders, you know, if you're not equally as upset about the fact that Broner was in the ring the same week he was in court on sexual assault charges, and then you're a hypocrite. And I'm not saying anybody on this show is. Everyone's, you know, giving Broner plenty of proper hell for what he's alleged to have done. But, you know, Saunders is pretty much in the same category, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's why I don't trust neither fighter. I'm being consistent in that regard. You know, hey, it is what it is with me.
Yeah, most of us here are very consistent. I see a lot of hypocrisy, though, when discussing these sorts of behaviors, you know, outside the ring. Hey, Canelo got popped too. So, you know, the bottom line is money talks, as we all know. And money can talk a guy out of a suspension, and money can talk otherwise reasonable people who would not tolerate that kind of behavior and to look in the other way.
Your reaction, Daniel, to one of your favorite fighters getting another chance is probably going to, well, he's going to be put in position that he could fight Demetrius Andrade.
You mean to tell me that an organization that's known on the other side of the Atlantic as the Warren Boxing Organization puts a Frank Warren fighter in their rankings immediately? Oh, color me shocked. I'm not surprised. Like I said, WBO does play favorites when it comes to promoters, and ultimately, like I said, from a competitive standpoint, I want to see it because when people bring up the Lemieux fight, yeah, we didn't expect Billy Joe to pretty much sun David the way he did, but then we also have to remember that David Lemieux is just has one way of fighting come forward. Where Andrade, for all of his flaws outside of the ring, as far as how he handles his business, is one of the best technicians in his weight division. And that makes this particular fight enticing to watch. Because then you can actually see comparable skill versus skill. But like EJ said, I don't think Billy Ho actually wants to fight. I think he's happy fighting people that he knows he can run circles over. He can't run circles around Andrade. But if you look at the rest of the division, we know he can run circles around Jacobs. And we know that the closest person he can get is with Canelo, but then Golden Boy's not going to lose a purse bid. So it's a difficult path into it, but I wouldn't go so well. No, there are a lot of comparisons between Broner and Billy Ho. It's just the dynamics are a little bit different as far as what they do, but they're both equally the same brand of disappointing. The only difference is that Saunders, when he gets an opportunity to show his skills, will actually show them. Broner won't even do that.
One question to EJ and Daniel before we move on. Starting with you, EJ. You both mentioned that you don't think that Saunders wants to fight with Andrade.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Saunders wants an easier touch, if you will, or do you think he's trying to wait for the Canelo sweepstakes in the big money?
Yeah. I you know what? He calls all these people out. Yeah, like he calls all these people up. But to me, yeah, like he's been around for the longest. Billy Joe is the type of guy. Yeah, he likes fighting where he is levels and whatever, and doing what he's doing. You know, he knew he could beat Lemieux. You know, he bet boxer skills. And like Andrade, it was a difficult fight. I think maybe you're right. Maybe he wants a Canelo. Maybe he wants that fight. Maybe he wants that fight to prove himself. But you know, the thing is, I don't trust it that he even going to turn up. You know, I question that he might do some bullshit to get himself out of the fight. Unlike Broner's situation is more like domestic and other stuff, but he does turn up, and his resume is far superior than Billy Joe Saunders. He fights the best fights all the time. He's obviously got a lot of losses record, but he's always constantly fighting the best. Mikey Garcia, Manny Pacquiao, Sean Porter. Like Billy ain't got nothing like that on his resume. We got Eubank Jr. Yeah, he's got David Lemieux, Andy Lee. So I don't know if we compare. He's just comfortable where he is, and some of them. He was supposed to fight Curtis or whatever. That guy went to jail. That'd have been interesting. That'd be funny. But no, he's like the type of guy that, you know, and it's parallel with him and Tyson Fury in a way. It's just the more to do with discipline and stuff, antics as well. But like these boxers and stuff like that, they always get up to stuff and that. You just want to kind of see him in the ring to let them perform. But at this stage in his life, yeah, and the way he is and stuff like that, I don't know if he'll be able to perform on that level. I hope the fight will happen, but I've lost faith in Billy Joe Saunders, and I would do that with any fighter. When they have a fight, I want to see them fight. I want to hear no excuses. I want to see them turn up. So at this point, that he might obviously he's got his #1 ranking. Let's see what he does with it, because I know this guy does year layoffs, man. Year layoffs, 1 fight in a year, 2 fights in a year. You know, with you know what I'm saying? Like, so are you really trying to say the best? I remember before he said about Triple G, he said if he sees him on the same side of the road, he'll cross the road. And obviously, Frank Warren had a word with him and said, nah. And then I was at the press conference when he came out and said, I want to challenge the winner at Canelo and Triple G. And then they looked in a rematch. Well, they've done their rematch, right? Now you're #1 contender. Let's see what happens. But, like, in my opinion, I think he's just happy fighting the level he is. I don't think he wants to be a great. I think he's happy just knowing that he was a world champion. And, you know, he you know, just beat the guys in front of him. Maybe he's going to do a Joe Calzaghe. Just hold that belt or try and get a belt and just hold on to it and just beat the guys in front of him. But I don't know if he wants to be great. And that's really the knockout I have with him. That's what I say. I think Broner tried to be great and you fell short. You know, and there's no harm in that. You try to be great. You jump from lightweight to welterweight. You lost against Marcus Madonna, a guy you thought you were going to beat. But since then, he's been trying to fight the best. So to me, that in with the levels of their competition of where they are, there's leagues apart, man. They're leagues apart. But the personalities, they both get up to some bullshit, you know. But we're gonna talk about it. But I don't think Billy Joe Saunders wants to fight these guys. I think he just likes talking about it. That's just my opinion. Go ahead, Daniel.
First of all, if he's for the Canelo sweepstakes, what leverage, if any, does he have without a title to engage Canelo? None. He has absolutely none, especially with a deal with DAZN where you're signed exclusively with DAZN, and Frank Warren pretty much has almost an exclusive deal with ESPN. You're going to have those two companies clashing. Granted, ESPN said they're not going to stop a fight themselves, but maybe BT Sports and Sky Box Office will. So there's a lot of factors into that if he's waiting for the Canelo sweepstakes. So that's foolish. But in a way, EJ's right. I think he's content. Saunders is content just knowing he was the world champion, that he beat Andy Lee for it, and that he beat Eubanks. He's probably content with that because he knows he could get accolades there within the UK. The problem is going to be, though, is he's always going to be a guy that goes, what if? Now, granted, we know he could have had a chance to unify if Golovkin would have agreed to it, but Canelo money speaks. And ultimately that drove him out of it. And then his shenanigans drove even more out of it. I would probably say he's probably going to be content trying to stay in the UK. Or if he fights somebody, he's going to fight guys that he knows he can run circles over, that make him look good, where he doesn't really have to put as much effort other than cutting weight.
Sorry, I was on mute there. Let's move on to some more news. In terms of talking about Billy Joe Saunders, the Canelo's name was mentioned. Well, last week it came down that one Canelo Alvarez, I thought he was going to fight Triple G. There was word that there was discussions taking place for a fight with Triple G as early as May. Well, news broke that Canelo Alvarez will instead fight Daniel Jacobs on May 4th. I'll go to you on this one, Gail. Your reaction to that news. Canelo going for Jacobs. As I've said before, I'm not mad at that fight. I'm not mad at that fight. It's going to be a good test for Canelo. I will make him the favorite right now, but Daniel Jacobs, he's a big guy, skilled, and can punch. One of the top middleweights out there. So, yeah, this is a good fight overall.
I love it. Props to both of them. Congratulations. Well done. Well done for the whole promotional team and infrastructure. They made an actual, relevant, interesting fight with guys at the right age, not past their prime, not somebody behind the 8 ball because of problems outside the ring. 2 guys in the right weight division, face to face. We don't have a venue yet. It's likely to be in Las Vegas. Who are we kidding? And I like it a lot. It's a great test for both of them. They have common opponents, which makes it interesting. And in my opinion, Daniel Jacobs came far closer to beating Golovkin than Canelo ever did. So that makes it alone, to me, a really interesting matchup. And Jacobs is among the smartest fighters there is. So if there's a way to solve the puzzle with Canelo, he might be the guy to do it. And boy, would that upset things in the middleweight division if he won. I mean, just the prospect of it makes this fight really intriguing. It's a substantial risk for both of them, but Jacobs is so gutsy. You know, his personal story has left him more or less fearless when it comes to boxing, and it's such an advantage for him. It'll be a good promotion. I think it'll be a classy promotion all the way up, very positive, and a good fight. Let's hope they put together a great undercard and everybody wins.
I'll go to you, Jacob, and then you can follow up, EJ and Daniel, your reaction to the news that Canelo Alvarez and Danny Jacobs will score off May 4th.
I like the fight. I love the fight. I think Jacobs has earned that right to fight Canelo. I'm maybe one of the few that thought that he beat Triple G, even though he didn't get the decision. So,
oh, you're not alone. I also thought that Jacobs beat Triple G that night.
Well, great minds think alike. So, but with with Canelo, I really don't think that he wants to give Triple G another fight. I think he knows he's the power player there, and so this is just another way to for Golovkin to get older and slower and wait around, and he's going to continue to do what he wants to do, which has been his kind of MO. But interesting enough, in the clause, there's a weight rehydration clause in this. If you guys remember, when Daniel Jacobs was going to fight Triple G, he forego the same day weigh-in for the IBF belt, so he wasn't eligible to win the IBF belt, even if he would have won that fight. And same thing with Canelo. He was notorious for not weighing in the same day of the fight because it wasn't a requirement. And before the Triple G Canelo fight, the IBF actually changed their ruling for any type of unification that they didn't have to have that 10% rehydration or 10-pound rehydration. So it's interesting that that they put this in here because I think they know that Jacobs is a big guy. He's got a big frame. And that he comes into the fight a lot heavier than what he weighs in at, just like Canelo does. But this is a way to kind of, I think, hopefully give Canelo an advantage to make it tough for Jacobs. It's going to be tough for him also, to I obviously stay within those realms, but who knows? Maybe Golden Boy pays the penalty and he comes in heavier, and because that's all it is, it's a penalty. So it's interesting. So there's going to be a lot of strategic moves here, but I think Jacobs can win this fight. I think he's quick. He's got the style that I think could give Canelo trouble. I don't think he's afraid of Canelo. I think he's more in his prime than Triple G is. So I think he's going to give Canelo a lot of problems. So I got to give Golden Boy and Canelo props for taking this fight, because it's a dangerous fight. They could have went a variety of other ways, like a Lemieux fight or some other shitty fight. But this is a tough fight. This is a good fight.
EJ, Daniel, your reaction?
Okay. Great fight for boxing. Daniel Jacobs definitely, always like that. I think he's like the top 3 in middleweight for me. I think this is a great fight. I agree with Jacob. I think he can win the fight. But, it's a case of Canelo has learned so much, and you kind of think that he's a bit more. He's not as easy as most people think he is. He's a little bulldog, man. You know what I mean? I don't know if Jacob mixes up with him, he's gonna find himself on the canvas, maybe. Or Jacob does what what's that guy who beat Canelo, beat Cotto the other day? Austin Trout. He might do that. I could see that happen. That could happen. That kind of performance, or it could be the other way where Canelo just game. But the only thing Canelo, the last fight with Triple G, he had a bandage around his knee. I don't know if his legs recovered and stuff like that because he's gonna have to be a lot of moving to cut down the ring against Jacob. But I think he can do it. I think Jacob could find himself in trouble, man. I think they've realized that it's the type of fight they want. You know, they probably look at Jacobs as a mover, a guy who's just going to try and win the fight on points and backpedal and stuff like that. So that suits them fine, I think. But it's a good fight for boxing. You know, I love the styles, personalities. Jacobs definitely going to talk a lot in the press conference and stuff like that. I think it's a great fight. I think what Jacobs has been needing since he moved with Eddie Hearn and with Matchroom and DAZN. I think that's the fight he needs. It's definitely for Canelo after that waste, that in my opinion, that terrible fight with Rocky Fielder, and that was awful. I mean, Rocky Fielder didn't even deserve to be in there. Like, I knew that school teacher definitely deserved to be in there. You know what I mean? I don't know who gave him his grading to make that guy. That was bad, man. That was bad. You know what I was often say is an embarrassment because Canelo's been a very good, loyal fighter for the fans and always trying to fight the best. But that one there, you know, that was a gimme. That was a gimme. So I passed that one. But this is a real test. This is a real test, you know. And Jacob's coming in with the idea that, you know, I beat Triple G, man. You know, I beat Triple G. Look at the score. You know, yeah. Well, listen, he got another chance to prove himself against the number one guy in the division. And I love the fight. I just love the fight. I think it's a fight that, yeah, you know, people can build up for. You know, you can get ready for that fight. Yo, Jacob versus Canelo, who you got? Yo, Jacob should have to win, man. He should have the boxing. Yo, Canelo cut down the ring. Can he land the Amir Khan punch? You know what I mean? The one where can he land that what's his name again? Finney Kirkland punch, where he sends the spirit up into the air. You know what I'm saying? So it will be a good fight. I look forward to it, and it's a great fight for boxing. Go ahead, Daniel.
Well, it's a surprising fight for people that think that Canelo was going to try to get a lot of soft touches because Danny Jacobs is not a lost touch. He's a very tough fighter, very big fighter who has quick hands. And that could be a very, very good weapon against somebody like Canelo. The question is, though, is Canelo's fast hands also counter the body attack of Canelo, which is what makes this fight very, very enticing. It is very likely to be in Las Vegas. Like the only way I can see it not being Las Vegas if this is the fight that, because I think Golden Boy said they wanted to do one fight this year in Estadio Azteca in Mexico City. They either do that or this one or for Mexican Independence Day weekend.
Well, they've already got a hold on the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. I mean, that's in writing with the Nevada State Athletic Commission. So they have a May 4th hold date there already. They'd have to give it up here pretty quick so it can be rebooked. So we'll know one way or the other pretty fast. Yeah. I mean, there is, to me, a slim possibility they could do it in New York. And I do think it'd be a great fight in New York because Jacobs, you know, that's his home base. Canelo was just there. He did very, very well as far as fan reaction and ticket sales. You know, that was a little toe in the water for Canelo. That was not by accident. So while I don't put New York at the top of the likely scale, I think it's certainly in play.
Madison Square Garden, because this fight would have to be Madison Square Garden. Contractually, Barclays Center's out of the question.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's the right place for both of them, really.
All right, so in that sense, it could be doable. Like I said, it's May. Only way it doesn't be able to do, I think, is if the Rangers get to the NHL playoffs, because we know the Knicks won't ever get into the NBA playoffs. this season.
So, you know what though?
The Nets
Daniel,
got a better.
ouch.
The Nets got a much better chance of getting to the playoffs. He right.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
no.
the Nets actually have a plan. So
Yeah, but they can work around a Saturday night. The professional crew at the Garden, I mean, they can turn and burn that place so fast. I have worked fights there with promoters where you had the Harlem Globetrotters there the night before, and they managed to convert the arena. I mean, it's really not that much difference whether you have a court or ice down. You got to switch it all out and cover the floor anyway. And they can do it. They can do it in a 12-hour or less overnight turn. So as long as there isn't anything booked on that Saturday night, or they can work around it, it's doable.
that's what I mean. Like, I have to look into the NHL schedule, because the one good thing about professional sports, they give you your schedule, including the playoffs, a year in advance. So I have to look into it to see if May 5th is locked in for an NHL playoff date. But it's a very enticing thing. But I would see it a lot.
That Saturday is actually the 4th. So you'd be looking at Saturday the 4th.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they swing it to a Sunday afternoon, and we're certainly starting to see some of that.
Yeah. Doubt it. You. Oh, wait a minute. No, there's enough Mexicans in the city where you need to have that Sunday. So it's gonna be it would be interesting in New York, but my running bet will still be Vegas. It's the safest bet, like you mentioned, Gil. It's a hold they already have it. They would have to release it fairly quickly. Other organizations that could have asked for T-Mobile already booked something else because of that. So it's going to be an interesting fight, but I got to give, like I said, you got to give props to Golden Boy. You got to give props to Danny Jacobs' team, Matchroom, because they made a fight that a good amount of people thought that Canelo would duck if it was presented with it. Let's be honest. But it does prove something when it comes to Canelo. People forget. Probably because a lot of the fighters that he faced in that situation were Heyman guys, and he never saw them again after the split. Was if you tend to piss him off, if you tend to disrespect Canelo in a specific way, he will fight you. Like Trout did in the way. We know Erslandy Lara did it very bluntly. And Jacobs probably did it in a way that he enticed it. And let's face it, in that sense too, Golovkin kind of also let this also happen with his very, very public indecisiveness about which network he wants to go to next.
Let's move on to this final news bit before we start breaking down fights this weekend. I'll go to you on this one, EJ. Last year we saw Srisaket Sor Rungvisai fight one of the fights of the year against Juan Francisco Estrada. I hadn't heard much from him since. Defended the title in October against a nondescript opponent. We had heard word that negotiations were taking place for him to fight German Ankanyas in a unification bout later this spring. But those negotiations broke off. But we've heard that Srisaket signed a deal with Matchroom DAZN. You cover smaller weight fighters as I do. Your level of surprise about this news, and again, the fact that DAZN and Matchroom, was in short Eddie Hearn, would reach out to sign Srisaket. Pleasantly surprised?
No, yeah. I'm happy. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for him. No, it's like I know HBO's gone, but boy, the way I mean, he made his name in HBO, but the way they were treating him, it wasn't good. There's only gonna get more love in the zone. I think they're trying to build him with the champion in Birmingham. What's his name? Pacquiao. I think that they're the same weight class, right? In
Yes.
yeah, that's what that's about. That's what that's about. He's trying to sell Yafai to make him a unified champion. So in a way, they're kind of serving him up, but I don't think they're ready for that. Now, if they get that fight in the UK, which maybe he come over, they're gonna be hard pressed to win a scorecard. So I think that's what that is. I'm happy. I think the zone have done their research. This kid's like pound for pound, man. You know what I mean? He beat the best, and why not? Yeah, man. I'm happy for him. You know, and I'm you know, you just broke the news to me right now, and that's my guy. I've been covering this kid from I've been covering when in my opinion he got robbed against Quadros, and I put all my monies down on Chocolito to lose, you know what I mean? And I got my money's back, you know what I mean? I put my neck out on that one, and he won, and then he knocked the Chocolito in the rematch, beat Juan Francisco Estrada, then he beat another guy, you know. He been well, man. He treated like a prince over in Thailand, and now he's getting the big push with the zone, Matchroom, should I say, signing with them. And hopefully he gets unification about this. Let's keep listen, man. This is what boxing's about, man. Opportunity comes, you take it. I'm sure he's happy. He's very humble guy. You know, he gonna grab it with both hands. And for Yao Kafai, he'll look at it like, man, I could beat that guy. Well, boy, let's see, man. Let's see, because you ain't been fighting no one. In fact, I forgot you was a champion. Almost like Lee Selby. You know what I mean? They had the belt, just holding it hostage. After he beat Gradovich, you know what I'm saying? Like, and he fought Thingy Hunter. I felt he lost against Hunter. He was losing anyway. The referee intervened. So let's see, man. Let's get these fights happen. The lower weights need, because you know HBO used to do a super fly. So with the zone, they're gonna feature him. Are they gonna make it a main event or whatever? I hope so. But it's good. I think it's a good move for him. Good move for boxing, and hopefully, you know, Srisaket is one of them guys there. It's kind of wondering. I'm kind of worried because I ain't seen him for a while, and he blows up. I'm kind of worried about how he's gonna perform, you know, because he loves to eat. He loves his food now. So I'm not too sure, boy. I don't know how he's gonna perform, but I think he should have enough because he hits like a ton of bricks for Yaka fight. You know what I mean? So that's the fight I think they're trying to build towards, and why not, man? I'm happy. I'm happy about it.
Quick word from everybody else regarding the news that DAZN has scooped up or signed a deal with Srisaket Sor Rungvisai.
Really happy to see it. That's the kind of marquee name that will draw other contenders in the division, and will satisfy those of us who love to see a good fight in the lower weight divisions. You know, he has been quietly, you know, fighting along in Thailand. In fact, I wanted to check and see what the last date of his last fight was. You know, he did have a fight under the radar in Thailand, a couple of them, one in July and one in 2018, which I think a lot of us saw. The July fight was a first round knockout. It was just wicked, against a journeyman Thai fighter. Then he had a little more trouble with Iran Diaz, who he fought to a unanimous decision in October. I think we talked about that fight, as I recall.
He got knocked down in that fight, I think, didn't he?
It should have been a knockdown, but it didn't get called.
No, it didn't get called, and it was a virtual shutout on the cards. He got a 120, 108 scorecard, and the other two were 119, 109. So, yeah, I mean, even the knockdown wouldn't have made a damn bit of difference. He was just cruising. But, you know, this has kind of been, in the last 6 months, sort of a, you know, victory lap around the country for him. And why not? You know, he certainly earned it. Now he'll have to, you know, get back to work, get serious again. He's certainly not getting any younger. He's 32 years old. So this is a time for him to cash in, and good for him. And he certainly earned it.
Daniel, Jacob, your thoughts?
It's something good, and actually something that Gail mentioned. This is pretty much further proof that DAZN is becoming the spiritual heir to HBO in a sense. Because, okay, you have Rungvisai. You can lure then other super flyweights, and maybe Tom Loeffler can make and remake like the Superfly series, but now you can make it on DAZN. I do feel kind of bad for Kanyas though, because it's gonna be tough for him to unify at that point. And yeah, what am I seeing that fight with Yafai? Rungvisai probably will knock him out, but it'll be fun to watch.
Quick word, Jacob.
I mean, I'm all for, I hope I really have enjoyed the Superfly exposure and these, semi, cards that they've had. So I'm glad when any of these, when any of these fighters can make a deal, for one, and then two, hopefully they are able to keep that alive if Loeffler is able to, sign some of his other guys with the DAZN to keep that brand alive. So it's nothing but good things. I mean, it's on one of my fights that I want to see. I would love to see Rungvisai fight Inoue. I think that's an interesting fight because of the way, how big Rungvisai is and how he hits, and we know what Inoue's been doing. So, if they can somehow work something out with that'd be great.
Let's move on to preview some fights here for the weekend, and let's start with the comeback of sometimes one-time Keith Thurman. He finally gets back into the ring. Saturday night fight, Josesito Lopez. I think you mentioned this fight earlier. You mentioned the comeback of Thurman early, EJ. And in saying that, you think he's basically going to have his way with Josesito Lopez. Expand a bit on why you feel that way.
Yeah, because Jose Lopez is done, man. Like he had his run, and then he got his ass whipped by. He got a good beating. Was it Cotto? I think it was Cotto giving Cotto gave a thing, and he had some good fights back in the days, but like mainly,
Canelo, right?
Canelo? Sorry, it was Canelo. That's right. Cotto. Yeah, you're right. Canelo, man, and I just when I see people get beaten the way they're beaten, I mean he's game. He's game, man. He's game. He'll fight anyone. That's that type of guy. But to be compared against Keith Thurman, I think it's a good fight for Keith Thurman. I always look at Jose Lopez. I know when he beat Victor Ortiz, I always looked at him as a 145 fighter. I always looked at him as a guy. I know he fought at 147, but he was more effective at 140. But he's one of them guys who'll fight anyone. I think, yeah, he went up to Canelo at 154. I remember now. So he's come back down at 147. So is he chasing the money, or is he actually, trying to, solidify himself as that guy? So I think it's a good fight for Thurman on a comeback. You got a guy who don't really hit that hard. He's going to be busy. Jose Lopez got a work rate, but ultimately he's going to get stopped by Keith Thurman. He should do. Keith Thurman don't even need to go on the bike. You don't even need to go on the back foot, bro. Just pick him off, and just catch and shoot. Work the body, just work the body, turn, spin him, hooks, right hand. And Jose Lopez will be done. I'll be surprised if it goes longer than 3. But he's game though. He'll keep getting up. Hopefully the referee, they got a good referee, not Jack Reese. Not Jack Reese. Is it not Jack Reese? Yeah, not Jack Reese. Because he'll let that shit go on. He'll let it go on, man. He'll let the beat go on. So hopefully they've got a referee to stop the fight. But I like it. I like the fight. I like the idea that you got a guy who's willing to fight, wants to fight Keith Thurman. And Keith Thurman, we want to see what Keith Thurman has left and see if he is that elite fighter. Because the Crawfords are there. You know what I'm saying? Amir Khan's still there. You got Errol Spence, Garcia's. So you want to see what Keith Thurman's got. I watched the fight. I mean, PBC's busy, man. They're busy, back to back. I'm enjoying it. I like it. So let's keep it coming.
I'm going to expand the question to everybody here. Do you share EJ's sentiments regarding this comeback fight for Keith Thurman?
I think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Keith Thurman has the right name one time because he only fights one time every now and then. So, I mean, we don't know what he's going to be like. I mean, he's fought through injuries. He's been off for a long time. This is the kind of fight that is dangerous for somebody that's coming back because I agree with EJ. Josesito Lopez he's had his moment, but he can play ultimate spoiler here and just getting himself prepped for this fight and, maybe jump on him early, because I'm pretty sure we'll see some ring rust and maybe he can pull an upset like he has done in the past. You know, he's known as I think the Riverside Rocky is his moniker. So I don't, you know, if I had to pick a winner, I'm gonna go with Thurman because I mean, just overall skill, and like EJ said, I think Lopez is, you know, he's just kind of hanging around and, you know, collecting checks, and, you know, good for him for negotiating this fight. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see a shell of himself, Thurman, and he gets upset, you know, in some way. I mean, we know he took a Colazo body shot, so we know he's vulnerable. He's definitely a front runner. He in his fights he tends to get out early, and then he starts to fade. His conditioning isn't what isn't there in my opinion. Like he did it against Guerrero, he did it against Garcia, and he did it against I can't remember the guy's name, but to me, I mean, it's Porter. So, you know, it's a decent fight. I mean, it's a comeback fight, so it's a reasonable matchup. So it'll be interesting.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was on mute. But Daniel Gale, your reaction?
It's, as far as challengers, it's a serviceable fight. We know that Josesito Lopez will test Thurman the way, because he's a kid that doesn't quit. And this will tell a lot about how much rust Keith Thurman has developed in this range, because nothing much changed in the division since the last time that he fought. The players are still there. The only major difference is that now, politically speaking, Manny Pacquiao is now a viable opponent. And technically, it's his mandatory. So it's going to be an interesting fight to see. I probably would say on skill set, Thurman should be able to win this. But we know what happens with fighters when they have really, really long layoffs, and it isn't because of injury. Like I said, that is almost ripe for an upset. And Lopez is the type of fighter that can pull an upset. But I probably see Thurman winning, and most likely by split decision.
Nah, I don't. If it was an upset, gosh, I don't see that. We're recording this show on Monday. Tuesday, July 27th.
That's why they call them upsets, though. We don't see them. That's
just like we didn't. I didn't see Serena just losing right now, up 5-1 the third set. She just lost. So yeah. But on to you, Gail. Your thoughts on Thurman's comeback fight against Josesito Lopez?
Yeah, we just all got distracted by that little bulletin. Yeah, big upset in the Australian Open. Yes, Jacob, you're right. The Riverside Rocky. For those who do not know the Riverside, California area, it is a inland city direct due east of Los Angeles. Not exactly a garden spot. So there's a little bit of irony to that title. Listen, Keith one-time Thurman, it isn't once a year. It's once upon a time Thurman at this point. He will have been out pretty much 2 years. 2 years out of the ring. That is a hell of a long time. Even considering that part of it was due to injury, that's a long, long time. And it's not like he's out of the ring at 20 either. So there is something that he needs to prove. He needs to show where he's at right now. But listen, they did not pick a tough test for him. Josesito Lopez last knockout. Anybody want to hazard a guess when he scored his last knockout as a fighter? Come on, trivia time, everybody!
Jeez, man.
I was there.
EJ got it. Martinez.
No.
Victor Ortiz in it.
No, he did knock Aaron Martinez down, but he's had a knockout. Oh, I take it back. I'm talking about a knockout. I'm seeing a knockout loss. You're right. Aaron Martinez is the last one. That's 4.5 years ago.
Mike Dallas. I'm looking at box rec. Mike Dallas.
Time. Now, no, I was thinking he scored a knockout, but I'm misreading the stats. No, he got knocked the F out by Andre Berto. Andre Berto.
I was at that fight.
Now, interestingly enough, Jacob, as you'll remember, he was doing really well in that fight. I mean,
he was winning that fight until he got caught.
Absolutely winning on the cards, and he got careless. He got careless, and he got tagged twice in the 6th round, and Raul Cayce Jr. stopped it.
Yeah, I also thought they stopped it a little early, though.
It was a very premature stoppage. I mean, admittedly, he had gone down twice, but it was only at a minute into the round. And you're right, there was a lot of discussion about it getting stopped early. But, you know, he's not a threat. You know, he does not have a whole lot of knockout power at this stage of his career. He's the upper hand in a fight like he did with Berto. Then he goes and gets careless, you know, and he does sort of throw caution to the wind. Now, that could make for an entertaining fight, but only as long as it lasts. You know, we'll see. Good news for you, EJ. It is not going to happen. You are not going to see Jack Reese as the referee because it's in Brooklyn. So you're much more likely to see, you know, Gary Rosado, Benji Estevez. We could all hope for Steve Willis, everybody's favorite referee out of the East Coast. Harvey
EJ,
Dock, you know,
what's the betting odds on that? What do we got on the betting odds?
I ain't look. No, I'll look while Gil finishes. Go ahead, Gil. I'll look, Jacob.
No. I mean, this is a gatekeeper. This is a little bit of a tune-up. I don't have real great expectations for this. You know, I question just how much heart Thurman still has in the game, really. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not really concerned about him winning or losing. I want to see what kind of driver's spirit he's got. You know, is he going to go in there, make a statement, and crush Lopez? Is he going to just be content to coast along and make it easy for himself? That's what I'm looking for this weekend.
Also, sorry, Mike, quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, to answer this great Jacob's question, 12-1. So you put your money down.
Ooh,
like,
I take that bet. I mean, I'd put $50 down.
You're gonna get 100.
$10 down, $50.
Yeah. That's pretty.
Yeah, I mean,
good.
$50. Those are great odds. I mean,
and you know the
12-1.
You know the thing is, yeah. You know what? See the way you put it out. See, that got me tickling my chin, because you know the thing is, yeah, he has got that. You know what I mean? You're right. I mean, you could put some money down for that. You know, I could see that happening. But hey, it's far in between. But that's what upsets are. You know, Jacob, go ahead, man. You put your money down. It'll be the first time. Go ahead and let's see if you catch it.
I'm gonna look into it. I think those are kind of the odds that you can't. I mean, you don't really see a lot of boxing odds get that high. I mean, typically it's like 4-1, 3-1, but 12-1 is, you know, that's.
Yeah.
You know, for someone that's coming off a long layoff, that's been hurt, and like you said, Gil, you don't know if his heart is in the game anymore. Yeah. You know, it could be the makings for an upset. That's why they call them upsets.
Yeah.
Where's Gus? Gus will try to place a bet with those odds.
Yeah, Linares won. Who would have got Linares in the first round again? See, the thing is, I knew, he was gonna beat him. I knew Cano was gonna beat him, and I just let, because I know Cano can hit that hard, and I was like, he's coming up. That's a hard guy. I saw him fight. What's his name again? I saw him fight Ashley Fearfane. And Ashley Fearfane's quite tough, right? And I see him, Ashley Fearfane got hit one of them, but he was running the whole night. And I see him fight Shane Mosley, but Shane Mosley is Shane Mosley, right? So I looked at the levels, I said, whoa, Linares, that's a hard fight. That one there, at the start of the year, I should have got that one. That one I should have got. I should have put money on that one. I'm sure Linares might have been the favorite, but the first round, to pick the first round, yeah, that would probably be some high odds, man. Linares just got cleaned out. But hey, go ahead, Jacobs, man. Go ahead, man. That's a good bet. I can't even. That's, you know, you called it. You broke it down pretty well. Go ahead.
By the way, I will say that the odd sheet, which I still have from the Pacquiao Broner fight, had if you wanted to pick a knockout round and you were betting on Broner, it was like 75-1 in the first round.
Yeah.
And I don't think it got much below 50-1.
Yeah, bro.
Was there an over/under on how many punches he would land per round?
You know, I didn't see that, but that would have been a great bet.
Good, man. I knew we were gonna get knocked out. He's durable, this Broner, man. Well, all these things is that he's quite tough, man. But hey, that's it, man. Go ahead, Mike.
If you guys think very little of Josesito Lopez's chances against Keith Thurman. I even think less of Takeshi Inoue's chances against Jaime Munguia. Munguia going to defend the belt against Takeshi Inoue, not to be confused with the more known Inoue brothers. This fight is going to be again on the Thurman Josesito Lopez undercard. And listen now, no, I'm sorry, it's not going to be on that undercard. It's going to be the same day. Excuse me, the same day. This is going to be on DAZN in Houston. Listen, y'all can talk about this fight. I don't think there's much to talk about because I've seen Inoue fight. He has nothing to trouble Jaime Munguia. He's not a good enough boxer to outbox Munguia. He's smaller than Munguia. He's not much of a puncher. The only thing that he could do was just grab and just make it an ugly contest. And I just don't think he has the physical strength to do that. If this fight goes beyond 5-6 rounds, I would be surprised. In my opinion, folks, Munguia is going to body this dude. He's going to body. This is nothing more than a showcase fight, in my opinion. Your thoughts, everyone?
I have no thoughts to add. That's exactly how it's going to go down. End of discussion.
You ever seen a table saw go through a piece of wood? That's what this is going to be.
I don't know. Listen, man. I'm gonna tell you, that some of these dudes they come from them sides, they're on that suicide watch, They don't care about losing their life in the ring. He gonna give it 100%. You know them Japanese warriors. He gonna come at him hard. I won't be so. I mean, can he beat Jaime at this point? At this time in Jaime's career, when Jaime's flying, it's gonna be hard. But I'm telling you, I wouldn't be surprised, man. I don't know. I haven't watched this guy. And I haven't watched this guy. I haven't sat down and watched this guy, but I do know about these Japanese dudes, man. They you know what I mean? They be coming off the canvas, coming up and throwing bombs and haymakers, and hey, maybe.
Okay, now you got to tell me the odds on this fight.
Yeah. What's your betting slip saying, EJ? What's your betting slip saying?
I'm not gonna put no betting down because I ain't researched the guy now. But I'm just saying, like these are the ones that people miss up on. Like I know when we're laughing at one, we're like, yeah, this guy gonna climb, and then all of a sudden, I could never. This is what I'm saying. This is why we love the game, man. We're so experts. We break it down. This is what should happen, but we don't know until the fight's fight. And I'm telling you, man, these Japanese dudes are tough. The game, this guy's never lost. You know what I'm saying? All I'm doing is put a thing. Look, he's got decision. He's got 7 knockouts. Behind me is that dude. That's what we're looking at. But you know, he's been fighting. Where he been fighting? He's been fighting his whole career in Japan. He fought one in Thailand. Look, he gonna make a splash, man. I mean, they've handpicked this guy, but make Jaime look good though. I guess, right? He's gonna be game and come forward. But hey, can he win? I don't know, man. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna watch it. But I won't be surprised if Jaime get upset. That's what I'm saying. I won't be surprised though. I won't be shocked. That's just me.
If Jaime comes halfway prepared, he's gonna knock this dude out. In a way, he's not even highly thought of in his home country. He's an afterthought even in Japan. And like I said, I've seen him fight. There's video of him on YouTube, EJ. There's nothing based on the video you will see that suggests that he will give Jaime Munguia trouble at all.
Yeah, this is just a showcase. This is mainly a showcase for Jaime, and it's something that Golden Boy, now that they actually have a couple more to contract with him, want to build on, because obviously, like I said, since they matched their prospects tough, not a lot of them come out like with good unbeaten records that you can say this is the guy that's going to be the heir to Canelo. Jaime, because of his pedigree and the fact that how he won those titles and how he just came onto the scene in that fight with Saddam Ali, he's in that discussion now. Not to mention the fact he's in a division where you could put him up against one particular fellow champion, and you know it's going to be fireworks. Like I said, I'm waiting for any roadblock to stop any fight between Jaime Munguia and Jarrett Hurd. Those two would beat the living daylights out of each other.
Imagine the whole thing that they were talking about when Munguia was going to fight Triple G. If they would have let that fight go.
Yeah. And the one decision from the Nevada State Athletic Commission which even in hindsight was the correct decision, changed a 21-year-old's career. Because it took him from being a sacrificial lamb to Golovkin to one of the sport's most rising stars, even though I had him as my prospect of the year in 2017. He has that potential, and now with Golden Boy being now officially the co-promoters, they're going to try to guide it as much as possible because they know they're in a division where anything can happen, and they also know they're in a division where a lot of the players are unfortunately politically inaccessible at the moment.
And I think we're going to shut things down on that note. Going to go around the panel here. First of all, I want to thank everybody who joined us live in the YouTube chat. I want to thank Gus. I want to thank Fink. Yeah, I want to thank Finks. I want to thank 1224529, aka Lisa. It's been a long time since I've seen you. Holla at me with your emails, Lisa. I need to get you back on the show. Gonna go around the panel here. Starting with Gail, begin the show starting with Gail. Going to end the show with Gail. For those who want to hit you up and talk boxing, for those who want to talk Game of Thrones, coming back in April. Dancing with the Stars, small business advice. Let the folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, it's getting close enough to smell it. Ain't that right, EJ? Game of Thrones. I can't wait. EJ does great work on Game of Thrones, by the way. Make sure you tell the folks when you get to your section where to find that. As for me, you can follow me on Community's Digital News, where my column runs. COM, C-O-M-M, Digi, D-I-G-I, News, comdiginews.com. On the Twitter and on the Gram, it's PR Pro San Diego. You were treated to a lot of backstage stuff this last weekend from Las Vegas. I will not be ringside again until we see Alberto Machado in February.
Going to you, Jacob, for those who want to talk the sweet science, Jacob from Jab Hook. And for those who want to talk movies, let the folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, Mike. Shout out to Gus, and glad to have EJ back on the show. And shout out to Bo and the people at 4 Boxing News. But hey, Gail, you're not going to that Mares Davis fight in February?
I am not. It's the same night as the Machado fight. I know. And I'm making the tough call. Damn. I'll be out at Fantasy Springs. I have a little business with Golden Boy, so I'll be out there. Yeah.
We'll miss you out there, but I'll be out there. But
I'm sorry.
Business,
I'm sorry
business that you might want to have some breaking news for him, pound for pound.
Not tonight on the pound per pound. When news breaks with me, I am always given the first exclusive. That I will guarantee.
Yeah, I could be found Twitter JRATM23 at Jab Hook Boxing. Shout out to Michael for donating to his page, help him out. He runs a really good show here. It's the best one I found on the internet. I really enjoy it. I love the panel. Everybody's really respectful and really knowledgeable. So
appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Help him out. And actually, I just an episode of Wrong Reel just released today. I did with a friend of mine. So the guy that runs it, James Hancock, it's his podcast about movies. So I guessed on there with Matthias van der Roos, I think it is, from the Netherlands. So we did a top 5 Oliver Stone films. We kind of went through his career. So check that out at Wrong Reel.
Daniel from the Inscriber, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk the NBA, especially when it comes to the Miami Heat, let the folks know where they can find you.
So you can find me at Ruckus99 on Twitter. You can find me, like I said, this Thursday, me and the folks from 4 Boxing News going to do our show covering the last week of the fights. And like I said, we're going to definitely talk about a lot of upsets because 2 major upsets happened last weekend. And now thinking about Game of Thrones, Team Arya all day.
Last but certainly not least, my UK brethren, EJ Boxing Live. Join us live from the UK for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk Game of Thrones. He has an excellent Game of Thrones channel on his along with boxing. He also does an excellent job of covering Game of Thrones each episode. Let the folks know where they can hit you up.
Yeah. Thanks for that, man. Yeah, EJ Boxing Live on Twitter, EJ Boxing Live on Instagram. Facebook is kind of private, you know what I mean? But I have got a group on Facebook, EJ Boxing Live group, so you can join there. I got like recent videos of me coaching. I'm an amateur coach now, even though I got my pro license. Or a recent fight, Jacob, man, was thankfully commenting on the video. You know, I don't want to obviously put the video as the names of the fighter because he's still progressing. So I just titled it who do you think won? And Jacob, what's the fight? And as I thought when I was in the corner, you know what I mean, I train my fighter, you know what I mean, I try to give them, I like my fighters not to get hit, you know what I mean? So, you know, making sure they don't get hit, but they look good. And I had him working, but, you know, in the last round, he got tired. I believe that, but I thought he won the first two. And I thought we won the fight. And it came to the decision, split decision. My mouth was gasped that the split decision went the other way. But it was a home fight, and it was his first fight. I was upset. But, hey, you guys should check that out. Also, yeah, with the Game of Thrones, man. Game of Thrones, they've got on the Sky Atlantic, they've got the countdown. And I'm looking at the countdown, I'm like, hold on, the countdown is in April, but that's how much people anticipating this Game of Thrones. Look, man, that Game of Thrones breaks the internet down, man. I mean, only break the internet down. Twitter goes crazy. You've been viral with Adrien Broner and Jim Gray, but when Game of Thrones starts, listen, everything shuts down. That is the must-watch TV thing. It's an event. It's just everything. When it's happening, can't get enough of it. So Game of Thrones, make sure you cover my coverage. You guys are all welcome to come on. I'll cover it straight after the episode. You know, guys come on and everyone gives their take or what they felt with Saw. So yeah, and also obviously with Michael obviously coming on my show as well. EJ Boxing Live, when I cover the fight, I'll be covering the fights this weekend. Wherever you guys are welcome. I appreciate the whole panel. Gail, Jacob, Daniel, Michael, even Gus in the chat. Sean Newton, I see you over there. You know what I'm saying? He on the Game of Thrones thing. I see you as well. So everyone, it's a great group, and everyone's real respectful, like Jacob said. And I enjoyed the boxing conversation.
If you like what you heard this evening, please make sure to hit that like button on YouTube. Please make sure to subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe to Pound for Pound Box Report on both iTunes as well as SoundCloud and Player FM, because we got you can listen to the Pound for Pound Boxing Report over on Player FM for folks over in the UK as well. Most things are not free, including production of the podcast. So there is a Cash Me as well as there is a Cash Me as well as a PayPal link. Please make sure if you have some dollars to spare, $1, $5, $10, I don't care. It will really help when it comes to ongoing episodes of this podcast and upgrades in terms of new mic and new equipment and all that stuff. So yeah, if you want to talk boxing with me, if you want to talk music and fitness, you know what it is on Twitter, Brother JR at Brother JR76. And as I said to begin the show, if you want to find out all information regarding Pound for Pound Boxing Report, blog page is the place to go to, P4P Boxing Report, .wordpress.com. On the next episode, we will do a recap of Jaime Munguia and Takeshi Inoue, Keith Thurman versus Josesito Lopez, and we will do a preview of fights that's happening in the first weekend of February, which will be Eliodoro Alvarez fighting a rematch against Sergey Kovalev. Teofimo Lopez is fighting on that undercard. Oscar Valdez returning to the ring as well. And on that same card, February 2nd in Frisco, Texas. Going to be on ESPN, by the way. Not just the ESPN Plus app, but also on ESPN, so you can see it live there. Interesting lightweight battle between Richard Comey versus Issei Chinayev for the vacant IBF belt. Rumor is that the winner of that bout could possibly get a crack at one Vasyl Lomachenko. So we're going to talk about all of those bouts. So packed card February 2nd on ESPN in Frisco, Texas. We will do a preview of all those fights. Excuse me. So once again, I want to thank everybody who joined us in the chat, YouTube chat, live YouTube chat. Gus from Corruption and Boxing, Lisa, aka 1224529, Finks, Sean. Thanks for the congratulations regarding my Clemson Tigers, Sean. Appreciate that. Also want to thank everybody who joined us on this particular show tonight. Gail from Communities Digital News, EJ Boxing Live, Jacob from Jab Hook, Daniel from the Inscriber. This has been episode 237. I am your host, Michael. We will see you next time. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.